Hi, Julia. I was thinking if we could hang out later this evening.
What? You want to hang out with me?
Yeah, why not? I was thinking if we could have dinner together and maybe watch some Netflix and chill. What do you say? I don't know if she got the hint of a booty call or not, but her cheeks turned red. Julia's my next-door neighbor. She's not the kind of girl who's used to getting attention from boys.
Yeah, okay. I would love to hang out with you.
Great. See you then. Around 8, Julia rang my doorbell. I let her in. She was dressed nicely for the first time. Her red sleeveless top with blue stretchy jeans made her look cute, honestly. Come on in. You look beautiful.
Thanks. Most of the boys are jerks to me, but you're not like them.
I smiled awkwardly and showed her to the couch. Why don't you take a seat? Her body weight almost dunked the sofa to the ground, but I ignored it. I wanted to keep things slow without making her feel uncomfortable. So I asked, let's watch something then. What do you have in mind?
Oh, I don't know. You decide. I would watch anything you want to watch.
I understood she was being nice to me. The idea of watching something scary popped into my mind. It will help us get in the mood, I guess. How about a scary movie?
Okay.
I played the scariest gore movie I could find. We started chomping on the pizza as the Netflix logo played on the screen and the movie started. As the movie began, I noticed Julia's face turning pale. Maybe I selected too much gore. Her eyes twitched and drops of sweat appeared on her forehead as the movie progressed. 15 minutes went by. We both kept watching it. At one point, a jump scare came and Julia screamed.
Ah! Oh, God! This movie is scary.
Realizing the time had come for me to make my move, I put my hands around her shoulder and scooted close to her. Hey, it's okay. It's just a movie. With the touch of my hand, she smiled awkwardly. I grabbed her hand and whispered in her ears, "You look so beautiful tonight." She ran her hands through her hair.
Thanks. I like you too, Arthur.
Would you mind if I kissed you? I asked as charmingly as possible. She blushed and nodded her head. I paused the movie and we started making out on the couch. She was a big girl, so at first I had to struggle with the positioning. But then we started kissing. I was enjoying it when suddenly she pushed me away.
What was that?
I followed her eyes and saw she was staring at the dark, empty living room. What are you talking about?
I just saw someone standing there.
Julia, you must have been mistaken. There's no one in this apartment other than the two of us.
But I just saw a tall, dark figure. Believe me.
This girl is pissing me off now. I tried to be calm and not ruin the chance of getting laid. I caressed her cheek and said in a soft voice, "There's no one. Trust me. Maybe watching the scary movie was a bad idea." She looked at me with a confused face and then again looked at the living room.
Maybe you're right. I must have spooked myself.
Exactly. Now, come here. I'll drive all your fears away. I again went close to her and started kissing her. 5 seconds into the act, Julia pushed me again, and this time too hard, making me fall from the couch. What the hell, Julia?
I swear, I saw someone walking. I'm telling you, there's...
Enough! I'm done with your crap! If you're not up to this, then why did you accept my invitation?
You invited me just to get laid?
She got up from the couch. I could have handled the matter better, but my mood has been ruined by then. Don't act so naive. You do know why I asked you. I mean, look at yourself. You really think a guy like me will have interest in a girl like you?
Screw you, Arthur. You are the worst of all the jerks I've ever met in my life.
She gave me a tight slap and left my apartment. I heard her slamming my door loudly. I sat down on the couch. The feeling of dread and disgust clogged my veins. Once I calmed down, I realized what an ass I had been to her. I knew I should apologize. I came out of my bedroom and turned on the lights in the living room. The cold wind was coming from the open window. I forgot to close it. I took a quick scan around the apartment and got sure that there was no one in my apartment. Poor Julia. The movie scared her so badly, and then I too made her feel worse. I came out and stopped outside her door. I could hear the sound of things breaking and smashing inside her apartment. Man, I have heard her. I knocked on her door. Julia? Julia, look, I'm sorry. I know I've been a jerk. Please forgive me. I won't make a pass on you for my selfish needs, I promise. Will you please join me for dinner? We can at least be friends, you know? Julia? What are you... A loud thud took place on the other side of the door, and then everything went quiet. I pushed the door and it creaked open. The inside of her apartment was a mess. Everything was ruptured and lying on the floor in pieces. Julia, I am sorry. Please don't be so angry. I kept walking towards her bedroom, expecting to find her fuming on her bed. But the bedroom was empty. She wasn't there. That's when I heard a tap running. I knocked at her bathroom door. Hey, come on, I said I'm sorry. Don't cry now. Please, Julia. But she didn't open it. I placed my ear on her bathroom door, trying to hear her, but there was no other sound than the water. I twisted the doorknob, and to my surprise, it opened. The bathroom light was blinking like crazy. Julia, is everything... Ah! I found Julia laying in the bathtub. Her eyes were wide open, staring at the vent. Water from the tap flooded the tub. She was dead. A round black mark was surrounding her neck. My head started to throb in pain. Just when the light stopped blinking and the white bathroom wall caught my eye, someone had left a message for me on it. With black, someone had written on the wall, "You should have believed her the first time." Oh my God. Does that mean Julia was telling the truth? She did see someone in my room. And while I was standing outside her door apologizing, someone was actually murdering her. I called the cops. The paramedics came and took away her body. The police suspect some psycho killer sneaked into our building. I don't know if they'll be able to catch Julia's killer, but it made me feel miserable that I treated her like crap in the last moments of her life. Julia, I hope you can forgive me for being a miserable person, but I promise to help out in this investigation. I'm also going to stay in this building, being ready if the killer ever comes back. I promise if he does, he'll get payback for what he did to you. Hey, my name's Richard. I was always one of the most popular kids in school. People were always coming up to me and trying to get close to me. Anyone who hung out with me automatically became more popular. Everyone except Edward, my best friend. Edward is the classic nerdy guy who doesn't like to go to parties, but that's not why no one approached him. But because if you approached him, you could meet Norton, his other personality. Norton was a dangerous person. There were times when he would destroy labs at school, break glass, try to start fires, or spit on people without being seen. I knew that when Edward came back, he wouldn't remember any of this. So in order not to depress him, I took responsibility for the things Norton did and always ended up being punished. Many times I thought about not defending him anymore, but when I saw how the bullies at school were always beating him up, I decided that I didn't want to bring another problem into his life. Graduation day was supposed to be the best day of our lives. We were all very excited to go, except Edward, who told me he wouldn't go, that he would rather stay home and watch movies. I decided to respect him and get ready to go to the dance, but as I was doing so, something felt wrong. Edward was my best friend. I couldn't abandon him on a day like this. I decided to go to his house as a surprise and watch movies with him, but when I got to his house and met his parents, they told me he had gone on a date. A date? I knew Edward well, and I knew that this was a lie. Had he gotten into trouble? They offered me to go to his room to drop off the movies I had brought, and I took the opportunity to see his room for the first time. Edward had always been very private with his private life, so we always went to my house. The moment I entered his room, I understood why. His entire room was filled with posters of serial killers, satanic symbols, and gun catalogs. As I checked his computer, I saw that he had several messages to his bullies. The messages were threatening, telling them that today he would beat them all up, that he would take revenge for everything he did to them, and to meet him in the abandoned alley around the corner from the prom dance. I left in desperation and ran to the abandoned alley. If Norton had planned for this but changed his personality in the middle of the fight, it would surely put Edward in the hospital. I got to the alley quickly, but the fight had already started. 2 of the 3 bullies that usually attack Edward were injured on the ground. One of them was fighting with Norton. I ran to separate them, and in the middle of the bully's distraction, when he saw me coming, Norton stabbed him in the head with a knife. At that moment, I looked around and realized that the other 2 guys were not injured from fighting, but had also been attacked by a knife. The boy fell, and Norton stared at me with a maniacal, unhinged, obsessive smile. He immediately picked up the knife and ran towards me, but suddenly, he stopped and his gaze changed. What happened? I did this? Edward, you came back! No, I couldn't have done this. Richard, my life is over. I'll never go to college. I'll never find a cure for my illness. I will never get help. I've ruined everything. At that moment, a thought crossed my mind. Edward was a good person. He didn't deserve this. These guys tortured him all the way through high school. Now that they're dead, Norton probably wouldn't come back, and nobody would bully him at the university. Edward, I'll take the blame. What? I can't let you do that! Listen to me. I'm useless. I have no future. I'm not going to college, and I'm not as smart as you. I'm taking a bullet for you. Just study hard and medicate yourself for your problem. Okay? No. Now, we have to figure out how to make the police believe that I caused this. Maybe I have a good alibi. I told my parents I was going on a date. You're right. That will work. I can tell them that you met these men and I defended you. Yeah, good idea. At that moment, something went through my head very quickly. Something was wrong. Hey, Edward? This was all planned by Norton, didn't he? Yeah, I suddenly appeared here. I don't remember anything. So how do you know you told your parents you were going on a date? I didn't say it. It was Norton. But you don't remember when Norton takes over you. Edward's face was in a state of pure shock. I'd never seen him choke so hard on his own words. There was something he wasn't telling me. Edward, I don't know if it's a good idea for me to cover you. If you have a disease, you should take responsibility for it. Suddenly, Edward lunged at me with the knife. I managed to dodge him, but he cut off a part of my arm. You know, you were a great help all through high school, but now you're even more useful to me dead. Norton? You were pretending to be Edward? You are so innocent. What do you mean? Kid, I never had multiple personality disorder. You mean there was never a Norton? No, silly. The one who never existed was Edward. With all of his strength, he attacked me with the knife, but I managed to get my hand through at the right moment. I pushed him and tried to get away, but in one leap, he struck the knife in my calf and I fell. I was at the mercy of Norton sticking a knife in my back and killing me. But suddenly, one of the bullies who had been wounded rammed him, threw himself on top of him, and choked him to death while yelling at me to call the police. Terrified and in pain, I called as fast as I could, and within minutes, 2 police cars and an ambulance arrived. The boy who saved me almost bled to death but survived. His testimony was the only thing that saved me from going to jail. After that, I decided that I would trust myself more, and in only 4 years, I became a lawyer. When I remember Edward, I got goosebumps. Who knows what that psycho would have done if he had stayed alive. I've always loved pranks. When it came to April Fool's Day, I'm the best there is. I've pranked my mom, my dad, my friends, and even my teachers. This year, I want to take it to the next level. I started planning my pranks weeks in advance. I set up fake cameras in the hallways, placed creepy dolls around the school, and started a rumor about an escaped serial killer. I first started the rumor by talking to my best friend, Mary. Hey, do you want to help me with a prank?
Sure. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking we start a rumor about an escaped serial killer. I know you talk to basically everyone in the school, so if you can spread the word, it'll be even more believable.
Okay, that sounds like fun. But what if people actually believe it?
That's the whole point. The more believable it is, the better. Mary was on board, and together we started spreading the rumor. We told anyone who would listen that there was an escaped serial killer on the loose and that they should be careful. We even made up a few details about the killer, like what they looked like and where they were last seen. By the time April 1st rolled around, the whole school was in a state of fear. And then it was almost time for the big reveal. I snuck a scary costume into school, my heart racing in anticipation. This was going to be the best prank ever. As I snuck out of class, my excuse that I had to use the bathroom, I put on the costume. I made sure that the hood covered my face and that my voice was disguised. Then I went to the library, where I knew everyone would be during lunch. As I walked to the library, though, I heard an alarm, my heart leaping into my chest with excitement. Mary had probably set off the alarm as an extra treat. I burst into the library, my hands above my head. "I'm the killer! I'm the killer!" But nobody was in the library. I stood there, confused, as I looked around, trying to figure out where everybody had gone. And then I heard a voice behind me, a panicked, frightened scream that curdled my blood.
Robert! Robert, run!
I turned and saw Mary running towards me, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. "What's going on?"
Just run, Robert! She's right behind me! The killer!
As I turned, I saw a woman behind me, a tall woman with black hair and one eye scratched completely out. Blood ran from her mouth, dripping down her chin and giving her a haunted appearance. Her visible eye was sunken and had the appearance of being deep inside her skull, but she was smiling a wide grin that showed off her blood-stained teeth. I began to laugh and turned to Mary, who was cowering behind me and tugging on my arm. "Oh, come on, Mary, you didn't really think I'd fall for a prank."
It's not a prank, Robert!
Come on, we had the perfect prank. Why did you have to go behind my back and try to prank me? But as I looked at Mary's face, I realized that she wasn't joking. She was genuinely terrified. And then I heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind me, getting closer and closer. I turned around and saw the woman again, her grin widening as she raised a blood-stained hand. I backed up, still thinking that this had to be some type of joke. "What the heck? What are you trying to pull?" As I did, though, I stumbled and fell over a chair. The woman was on me in an instant. Her hands tightened around my throat. I struggled, trying to push her off me, but she was too strong. She tightened her grip and I felt the life being squeezed out of me. As my vision started to fade, I saw Mary behind her, a peg raised as she brought it down on the woman's head. I scrambled to my feet, just in time to see the woman spring in what seemed like an instant at Mary, lunging at her and tackling her to the ground. I grabbed a book off a nearby shelf and threw it at the woman's head, but she didn't even flinch. She leaned down and sank her teeth into Mary's neck. Then I turned and ran. I could hear the woman's laughter echoing behind me as I fled the library, my heart pounding in my chest. I ran through the school, trying to find someone, anyone who could help me. But the school was deserted. Everyone was gone. As I ran toward the exit doors, however, I saw a motion out of the corner of my eye and suddenly found myself tackled to the ground. The woman had found me and was on top of me in an instant, her bloody face inches from mine. Her insanity was clear in this instant. It's something that you have to experience to truly understand. She lifted her hand, a large knife clutched in her fist. She brought the knife down just as I managed to kick her off me, backing up as I desperately tried to get to my feet. The woman's laughter echoed in my ears as she came at me again, her knife raised. She began to cackle, her laugh growing louder and more maniacal as she bore down on me.
The last one! The last one! The last one!
What the heck do you want? The woman doesn't answer, only continuing to advance on me with her knife raised. I back up, barely managing to get to my feet, and turn to run as I heard her laughter behind me. I threw myself into the doors, ready to burst into the outside world and escape this monstrosity. But my body came to a stop and I grunted. The doors had been bolted shut from the outside. Turning outside, I saw the woman running towards me, her knife still raised. I tried to run, but my body was frozen in place. I couldn't move, no matter how hard I tried. When she was barely inches away from my face, I managed to dodge, my entire body moving only because of the adrenaline and fear that I felt. I heard a heavy thud as the woman ran headlong into the door, bursting through it into the sunlight outside. "Don't move! This is the police!" I heard the commotion outside as they tased her repeatedly, finally wrestled her to the ground and put her in handcuffs. I lay there for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, before finally getting up and going outside. I was surrounded by police officers, all with their guns drawn, and in the middle of them was the woman, her black hair matted with blood, her one eye wide and staring, her grin still in place. She looked at me, a placid smile spreading over her lips.
The last one. The last one.
I don't know what she meant by that, and I don't think I ever want to find out. I put on weight last summer and was looking for enthusiasm to go back to working out. Finally, after New Year's, I took my resolution to regain a healthy shape. The gyms near my house all had morning slots, but I was looking for a more flexible time frame. So I enrolled on this gym 3 blocks away, which used to be open 24/7. I scheduled to go there late at night after getting off work. I drove my car and reached around 11 p.m. The receptionist was drooling on the counter while sleeping. I didn't bother her, just punched my membership card and got in. I certainly didn't expect anyone to be there at this hour, but to my surprise, there was this man. He was thinner than paper and working out on a treadmill pretty rigorously. We exchanged a look and he gave an awkward smile.
Okay, now I've got to tolerate this douchebag.
He was wearing too many clothes. I started on the exercise bike, but my eyes kept watching him. The more he kept working out, the more he sweats. After a few seconds, he took off his jacket. "Whoa, isn't it hot in here?" I nodded out of courtesy, but he began to be weird. Now, slowly, he started stripping. He took off his socks, then his pants, his t-shirt, and finally stopped at his white underwear.
Oh my god, is this guy crazy?
Even if he realized I was hating seeing him like that, he didn't bother. Instead, he started flexing his bony body like a beach hunk.
Okay, that's enough. Time to leave.
I went straight to the washroom to get changed into my regular clothes and leave. I also planned to let the receptionist know about this creep. But once I came out from the washroom, the man was sitting on the floor, hiding his face in his palms. He was crying.
Hey? Are you alright?
I try my best, but it never works.
Try what best?
To make girls like me. The girl who came before you also told me she was going to the washroom, but she never came back. I know she tricked me and left with a back door. Why do girls hate me so much?
Maybe you should stop trying so hard.
Saying this, I picked up my bag when suddenly the lights went out.
What the?
I heard the door lock click. Danger alert.
Hello? Excuse me?
The man turned on the flashlight on his phone, and I found him standing right in front of the door.
Move away.
You can't get out. I locked it. My feet tremble. A cold shiver ran down as I realized what this wacko has done. Suddenly, he crouched on the floor and started coming at me like a four-legged animal. I turned around to run. I also switched on the flashlight on my phone and noticed a back door on the opposite side of the room. I stomped on it, and luckily it opened. There was a stairway that went to the basement. I took it. My plan was simple. Find a safe place and then call the cops on Mr. Strip Creep. The basement was long, and at the end of it I could see a purple light.
Oh, thank God! There's a room! Someone might be there!
I stopped outside the room, and what I saw made my blood turn cold. 3 men wearing pig masks were hanging punching bags all over the room. The bags were dripping off a red, sticky liquid, and it smelt awful. Suddenly, one of the punching bags started moving, and a muffled scream of a woman's voice echoed. One of the pigmen started punching the bag, and he only stopped after the scream died down. Just then, I heard footsteps behind me, and I knew I am trapped from both ends. It was either that creep or these psycho killers, and I chose none. I quickly hid behind the pile of cardboard boxes in the corner and tried my best not to make any sound. Hey, beautiful. Time to go on a lucky date. The creepy man, unaware of what was happening under the gym, called me out, and I saw the pigmen turning their heads towards the door. Seeing the light, the man stopped outside the room, and the pigmen stared at him. I might have come to the wrong part of the gym. Did you guys see, never mind. Before he could run, the pigmen lunged at him and started to drag him into the room. No! Please let me go! I swear I won't chase girls anymore! Please! The pigmen duct taped his mouth and put him inside one punching bag. I saw a window of opportunity to escape this freak show. I tiptoed to the stairs and was about to climb up when the alarms went off.
Damn it!
Turning back, I saw the pigmen coming towards me, and I ran for my life. When reaching the reception, I was blown away. The receptionist was now standing there with a grin.
We can't let you go. You have seen too much.
The pigmen took out knives and electric saw, and I was a few seconds away from turning into minced meat.
No, stop! You don't have to kill me. We can work a deal. What deal? If you let me go, I'll bring victims for you. I swear, I will. That doesn't sound so bad. A permanent supplier for our dark web meat market. Not bad at all.
And they agreed to let me go. It's been 3 years now. I go to work out in the same gym. Every week I picked up some random hitchhiker on my way and offer them water. Not knowing they're being drugged, they drink it. What happens next? Well, you already know. The girl goes missing, but as long as I'm doing my job, I'll be safe. I was waiting for the bus home when I received a notification. It was a Snapchat request. The name read Mr. Cutthroat. Pretty unusual, right? But nowadays, in social media, everyone likes to be a little crazy. Plus, no harm ever came from accepting a Snapchat request. Hence, I responded. Within minutes of adding Mr. Cutthroat to my Snapchat, I started getting even weirder texts. The conversations started like this. Hi.
Hi.
What are you doing?
Watching Netflix. Lying in my bed.
I didn't want to give away too much information, so I lied. Even though it was a common question, I wanted to stay away from creeps. Mr. Cutthroat didn't reply for a minute straight, and then his text dropped. What are you watching?
Just some Korean drama.
Do you like scary movies? Okay, now he was sounding like the killer from Scream, but I decided to play along.
Not much.
Why not?
They bore me.
Then you're probably watching the wrong ones.
Maybe.
Before I could see his next reply, my bus arrived. As I said, it was the late bus home, so apart from me, there were probably 3 to 4 people inside it. I took a corner seat and went back to talking to Mr. Cutthroat. I saw that he had replied, "You should watch the movie where the killer follows the girl and she has no idea."
Really? Never heard of a movie like that. What's the name of it?
While he replied, I took a sip from my water bottle and, hearing the notification, glanced back to the screen. Your life.
That's an odd name for a movie.
I'm not talking about any movie. It's what's happening with you right now, Sarah. That's when I got the chills.
Is this some effing joke? Because it's not funny.
You seem scared now. I thought you said you were home. Aren't you home, Sarah? My heartbeat got faster. How does he know I'm outside? Is he following me? I slowly looked behind me. An old creepy woman was staring out the window, and beside her sat this man. His face was covered by a baseball cap, giving the impression he was sleeping. While texting Mr. Cutthroat, I watched him to see if he is somehow involved in these texts.
No, I'm home. I don't know why you said it.
From the corner of my eye, I noticed him as I sent the text. No, it's not him. The man sat like before. Whoever this Mr. Cutthroat is knows very well how to throw wild guesses and spook people. I shrugged it off and didn't reply to him. I was sure that I wasn't being followed by a killer, but still, deep down, I was feeling paranoid. All I wanted was to get home and lock my doors. I was just joking. So what are you doing now? I didn't reply. Sarah, you there? I still didn't reply. Come on, it was just a stupid joke. Don't be mad. I blocked the account. No way I'm letting some socially awkward, frustrated junkie ruin my weekend mood. For the next 5 minutes, nothing happened. I was finally content that the creep named Mr. Cutthroat is now gone from my life. But boy, I was wrong. Suddenly, I got this text from an unknown number. It wasn't nice of you to block me. I apologized.
Why are you annoying me? I don't want to talk to you anymore.
But I'm not done yet! The text sent in block letters gestured he was yelling at me. This dude was unbelievable. Who does this guy think he is? My patience level gave up, and I typed this big text bashing his stupid, moronic way of having fun at people's expense. And it was all in caps.
Listen, you jerk! I know how guys like you try so hard to get women's attention. But even stray dogs want to avoid you jackasses. You are going to die alone, so congratulations, dumbass!
He didn't text me after that. The bus driver called out for my stop. I got down with an ease that this chapter with the crazy Snapchat stalker is done and dusted. The streets were empty and eerily silenced. I could hear my stilettos making a sound that echoed around the block. My house was standing right at the end of the street. God, I am going to take a long bath and sip wine. Hello to the weekends. As I stepped on my porch, the sensor light turned on. For a moment, I felt someone was watching me. I quickly turned around. It was only a raccoon scavenging the big dumpster on the opposite side of the road.
Huh. Silly me.
I unlocked the door and finally got in. Once I locked it from inside, I felt safe. I don't know why I was feeling scared standing outside. Mr. Cutthroat has managed to get inside my head quite well. I threw my bag onto the living room couch and plugged my phone into the charger. I opened the fridge and drank cold water to calm my nerves.
Toodles? Toodles? Where are you?
I kept calling my cat, but she was nowhere. I kept staring at the dark kitchen, expecting my cat to walk up to me.
Jeez!
Suddenly, my phone rang at a loud volume, giving me a heart attack. It was from an unknown number. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I picked it up.
Hello?
So you are finally home now, Sarah.
What do you want? Why are you still disturbing me?
I slid the curtains and looked at the streets outside. I'm pretty sure this creep has followed me home, but I didn't see anyone.
Where are you? I know you're stalking me!
Instead of looking for me, maybe you should look for your cat.
What?
Why don't you check under your bed? I'll wait till you do. Drops of sweat gathered on my forehead. With stumbling footsteps, I made my way to my bedroom. As I turned on the lights, I jumped.
Ah!
My white bedsheet was stained with blood. I crouched down to the floor and looked under my bed.
Oh my god! Toodles!
Under the bed remained the mutilated body of Toddles. No doubt her throat was cut off. The man finally spoke from the other side. Now you know why my name is Mr. Cutthroat, Sarah. Next time it'll be you. I've been to your house, so I know every little detail to get inside. See you soon, Sarah. I broke down in tears. My lungs were giving up. It was getting so difficult to breathe, but still, I managed to call 911. I told them everything while panting for air. The cops came and searched my house. They took my dead cat away and I ended up in medical care for 3 days. Once I got discharged, I went back to the house, but not alone this time. I had my brother with me. He brought a gun and helped me pack. Within 24 hours, I moved out to my mom's house. My house is now rented to this couple who are both cops. I live in the same house as my mom. I don't know when I'll be able to live indecently again. I've changed my number and every little detail related to my social media. This is my advice to all the people out there who are often trusting random strangers on social media.
Don't accept people you don't know!
I worked as a night watchman all my life for this warehouse located on the outskirts. One night, I was having dinner after my usual rounds when I heard this mysterious sound. It was the sound of something being dragged on the floor, so I got up to check. Sometimes homeless men sneak in to spend their night under a roof. Expecting something similar, I entered the storage unit where piles of cardboard boxes were lined up like a tower. That's when I heard 2 unfamiliar voices. "Hold the legs, I'll hold the hands." "Didn't expect it to be this heavy." "It's a dead body, not some bag filled with trash. It's supposed to be heavy, moron." Did they say dead body? Holy smokes. I quickly switched off my flashlight and peeked behind a cardboard box to get a better view of what was happening. What I saw gave me goosebumps. 2 men were dragging a black polythene-wrapped sheet, which I now know has a dead body inside. Never in my life had I thought to come across 2 murderers sneaking a corpse into this warehouse. I took out my phone to call the cops, but realized there was no network inside the storage unit. The men were taking the body to the basement. I was silently following them, hiding behind the boxes, when I stepped on a broken piece of glass. The crunch made the men stop what they were doing and look around with wide eyes. "I think there's someone here." "You check that way. I'll look behind the boxes." "Oh no, he's coming this way now. What should I do?" I quickly crawled to the doorway, but before I could get out, one of those murderers blocked my way. "Where do you think you're going, Doc?" "Move away. I have a gun." "Really? Show me." I don't want to injure you. The cops will be here soon. I've informed them already." "I know you're lying. But don't worry, I have a knife and that's better than your fake gun." Saying this, he took out a big knife and lunged at me. We started struggling on the floor. He brought the knife closest to my eyeball. I was freaking out of that one wrong move and I'm dead meat, just like the body in the plastic bag. But when death comes, you try the hardest to cling to life. I took out my flashlight and hit him on the head with it. He moved away, holding his bleeding head, and dropped the knife accidentally. I took full liberty of this chance and grabbed the knife before he could. He again jumped on me, but I stabbed him in the heart. The knife was deep inside, and blood came out from his mouth with a dying choke. His lifeless body fell on the floor. I just murdered someone. But I did it in my self-defense. There's only one way to inform the cops now. There's a phone in the security room. I must go there. I rushed to the security room, and as I opened the door, I found the second murderer waiting for me with a smile and a gun pointed at my face. How the hell did he get here? "Timmy was a moron, but I'm not. I'll kill you before you can take another step." No, stop! I dropped the bloody knife from my hand. My mind wasn't thinking straight anymore. I already have blood on my hands, and just like this man, I'm guilty of murder too. But I don't want to go to jail. That's when a vicious idea came to my mind. "Look, we can both get away if you listen to me. Are you trying to make a deal with me?" "No, I don't want to go to prison, that's all. I have a wife waiting for me to come home. I want to live. And if I'm not wrong, you want to live too, right?" The man's face changed. He lowered the gun and asked, "What do you have in mind?" I told him that together we can get rid of the bodies and part ways. He proposed to delete the CCTV footage to leave no evidence, and that was it. We dragged the bodies one by one into the incinerator and burnt them to ashes. Not even in my wildest dreams I thought to work side by side with a murderer. But life is not the same for everyone, especially when you're not rich enough. After getting rid of the bodies, we shook hands and promised to never see or talk about this night again. He left in his blue pickup truck and I closed the warehouse. You can't imagine how I drove home that night. I stopped to ring the doorbell but found the main door already open. I got inside. There was only moonlight coming from the window. I threw my body on the couch. I called out to my wife and she spoke from the kitchen. Nancy, are you awake?
Yes, dear. I couldn't sleep, so I came down to get some milk.
Why didn't you lock the door?
Oh, who would come at this hour? You sound tense. Is everything all right?
I wiped the sweat off my forehead and relaxed a little. I don't need to tell her about any of what happened. I calmed my voice down and said, "Can you get me a beer, please?" But she didn't answer. I called out again. "Nancy, are you there?" But this time, she replied,
Yes, dear.
I picked up the phone with shaking hands. Is it the cops? Are they already looking for me? Hello?
Jonathan?
Yes. Who's this?
I'm your neighbor, Mrs. Morris. Don't worry. The cops will be here any moment. I knew something was wrong when I heard a scream. I got up and saw two men dragging something in a plastic bag outside your house. They left in a blue pickup truck.
I dropped the telephone. I picked up my trembling body and walked to the kitchen. I turned on the lights. There was no one in the kitchen. It was ransacked completely. There was a long blood trail starting from the kitchen and ending at the door from where I stepped in. It's been 6 months now. I'm a prisoner in Ohio County Jail. I can't sleep at night, as that one question keeps haunting me in my dreams. If I killed one of the murderers of my wife and helped the other get rid of my wife's body, then who answered me when I got home that night? This one summer vacation, my parents enrolled me on this summer camp in Utah. Kids from various schools joined the camp. We were sorted into groups under camp leaders. The girls stayed on the left part of the camp and the boys on the right. We were all teenagers from the age of 13 to 15, so it was obvious that our hormones got the best of us. Boys were flirting with girls and girls were enjoying the attention. Me being the loner felt a little left out from the group though. But then I met Angela. I was sitting behind a tree making a catapult from a twig when I heard a girl screaming.
Give me my glasses back!
Take it, weirdo! Come on, take it! I looked behind the tree and saw a Tucker bullying this girl. Tucker was from my school and often took advantage of his big size. The girl, though, was standing there helpless. She had 2 ponytails and braces. I got up and snatched the glasses from Tucker's hand. Pick someone of your size, Tucker. Wow, looks like someone's got a girlfriend. Suck eggs. Tucker kicked his feet on the ground, splashing muddy water on the girl's pink dress, and left smirking like a villain.
Thanks for helping.
Ignore him. He's a jerk. I'm Jack, by the way.
I'm Angela.
That's how our friendship began. Angela and I hung out together the entire day, but that evening, during the bonfire, something weird happened. I was eating roasted chicken cooked by our camp leaders when Angela got up and disappeared into the woods. After a few minutes, when she didn't come back, I decided to go look for her. I went towards the lake and found Angela and Tucker standing there. No one else was there. I thought Tucker was bullying her again, but then I saw Angela kiss Tucker on the cheek. It was shocking to watch. Moments back, this guy was making her cry, and now she's kissing him. Thinking I'll never understand girls, I came back to the campsite. I felt bad and went to bed without waiting for Angela to come back. The next morning, my roommate Carson woke me up. Dude, get up! Get up! What? Why are you shouting? Something killed Tucker in the woods last night. What? Yeah, man, the camp leaders found his bloody body under a tree this morning. We all were summoned to the dining hall and the news of Tucker's mysterious death was announced. Mr. Russell, our camp counselor, said that it was an animal attack as Tucker had multiple slash wounds on his face and body. The cops took away his body and we were prohibited from leaving the campground after dark. That afternoon, I went to Angela's room to ask her about Tucker's death. I was sure that I'm the only one who saw Tucker with her before he died. But as I knocked on her room, I heard her roommates laughing and making fun of her. They opened the door and yelled,
Oh, Angie, your boyfriend's here.
I got awkward, but then they said something even weirder about her.
Oh, how will you make out with your boyfriend when you can't even change your clothes in front of us?
Angela stood in the room with her face turning bright red, and the girls left. Is everything all right?
Everyone makes fun of me for my shy nature.
I hugged her, and seeing her all upset didn't bring up the topic of Tucker. We planted saplings all day and Angela was smiling again. The sun was about to set when Angela asked me for a favor.
Jack, you're my only friend here. Will you help me prank Camilla?
Camilla? The girl who was making fun of you this morning?
Yes, I just saw her going to the washroom. Please, help me teach her a lesson.
But what kind of prank do you have in mind? Angela took me outside the washroom and pointed at the window.
All you have to do is lift me up to the level of the window so I can scare her. That's all.
Okay, it's a harmless prank, I guess. I carried Angela on my shoulders and lifted her, but instead of doing what she told me she would do, she plucked this beehive hanging from the corner shade and dropped it inside the washroom from the window. Thousands of bees swarmed in the washroom and Angela closed the lid right away. Camilla's painful scream numbed my ears.
Come on, let's run!
Angela pulled me and we ran away before anyone could see us. When we reached a safe spot, I was stunned by her sick prank. I screamed at her for doing such a horrible prank and told her our friendship is off. I also threatened her that I know she was with Tucker the night he died. Her eyes turned big, once heard me. I didn't wait for her reply and stormed away. When I came back to the campsite, Camilla was in the medical room, passed out in pain and high fever. I made up my mind that the next morning I'll go to Counselor Russell and warn him about Angela. A thunderstorm took place that night and we were all sent to our cabins early. My roommate, Carson, stayed with a few of his other friends that night, so I was alone. Around 2 a.m., I woke up feeling heavy pressure on my chest. With my blurry vision, I saw Angela sitting over me with a terrifying smile and a knife.
I thought we understood each other, Jack. But you're just like everyone else.
No! She lifted the knife to stab me, but I knocked her off the bed, screaming. We began to struggle for our lives when I grabbed Angela's long black hair, and the unthinkable happened. Her wig came off.
No! What did you do, Jack? What did you do?
Angela's body trembled in rage, like she was suffering a panic attack, and fainted on the floor. I ran to the counselor and told him everything. Angela's family and the cops were called. A shocking truth came out afterwards. Angela was a boy named Peter. After his sister died in a tragic car accident, Peter's mom raised him like a daughter. It was his mother who messed up Peter's mind from a young age. Peter is now in a juvenile correctional home with the charges of first-degree murder and one attempto murder. I have never attended any summer camp since then. I got trust issues dating girls for a long time after that incident. John took my ex-wife Pam and my son Emmett inside the amusement park. It was clear they're going to spend the day here, which means I have a chance now. It's been 2 weeks since I'm stalking them. First, I needed to handle her, so I went behind her. Even though the park was crowded, the washroom was clear. After Pam got inside a bathroom stall, I locked the main washroom door from the inside, so no one can get in.
I would never fall in love again until I found her. I said I would never fall unless it's you I fall into. I was lost within the darkness, but then I found her. I found you.
Look how she's singing. Witch ruined my world and now trying to be happy? I won't let that happen. I opened my bag and took out a plastic bag. Just when she opened the stall door, she screamed, seeing me.
Mike! How did you get inside?
Did you miss me, sweetheart? Was it me you were singing for just now?
Oh my God! Help! Help! Please! Somebody!
But I didn't let her finish. I put the bag on her face and started choking her. She could hardly breathe. Her body started to shake. She kicked her hands and legs in the air, but I didn't let her go. After struggling for 7 minutes straight, Pam got numbed. Her lifeless body fell on my chest. I gave her one last hug and seated her body on the toilet seat. I left the plastic bag on her head so her flustered face gets a cover. They say that when you die of asphyxiation, all the blood in your body rushes to your face, making it red. I closed the stall door and came out of the washroom. Luckily, there was no one outside waiting to get in. Now, to my main target, my son, Emmett. I couldn't spot him at first, but then I heard his voice.
Dad, look, I'm flying!
Emmett was riding on the unicorn with other kids. He had a big smile. John waved at him, standing at a few distances. But what struck me as a shock was that my son was calling someone else Dad. No wonder. Pam and John brainwashed him these past 2 weeks. Emmett, just be here. I need to look for your mom. She's taking quite some time. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back soon. John left the scene, and I finally saw a ray of hope. I can talk to my son now. I walked close to him, and when he noticed me, his face changed. The smile vanished, and he watched me with scared eyes. Emmett? Honey? It's Dad. The ride came to an end, and Emmett got down from it.
You're not my dad. Mom wants me to stay away from you.
No. Look, Mom was wrong. She's just angry.
But you heard her. I heard her crying when you came home tipsy.
I just drank a lot of orange juice, Emmett. Doesn't make Daddy a bad guy. I'll explain everything, but first, let me buy you an ice cream. Is that okay? Emmett looked around and then thought for a second.
Okay.
Good boy. Come with me. After a long time, my son held my hand. My witch wife filled his innocent brain with lies, and now he thinks I'm some villain. I bought her ice cream and sat down on the bench next to the Ferris wheel. I brushed my hand over his head with great care. Emmett, will you like to go somewhere great?
Where?
To this big house with a fish pond. You can feed them all day.
But what about Daddy? He said not to leave the park.
He's not your dad, Emmett. I am.
But the police said you're bad for us.
Well, they're wrong. And so is your mother. But she won't be trouble anymore. Come on, let's go. I grabbed Emmett's hand and got up to walk away, but he didn't get up with me.
No!
No. It's me, your dad, boy. Come with me.
No! I don't want to go with you! Leave me!
But why? I'll do anything for you. You're my son.
Leave me or I'll scream!
From the corner of my eyes, I saw 3 security guards looking at me and Emmett. If he screams, I'll get in trouble. So, it has come to this now. There's no other way then. Okay, you don't have to leave the park. Would you like to take one last ride with your real dad? Please?
Which ride?
How about the Ferris wheel?
But it scares me.
Oh, don't worry. I'll hold your hand. We got on the Ferris wheel. The ride started to move up. Just then, I heard John screaming. There he is! He killed my wife and now trying to hurt my son! Emmett! The security guards gathered under the Ferris wheel. We were at the top of the wheel from where the entire park was visible. But before they could get us down, I screamed. Don't take it down or I'll throw the kid! No! Stop! Emmett started crying, but I was all determined. This time, I'm not letting my son leave me. I'm going to end my life and take him with me. But things don't always go as planned. As I grabbed Emmett's hand and ready to jump, he suddenly pushed me in fear. I lost my balance and his small hand slipped from my sweaty palm. While falling, I could see his teary eyes watching me one last time. I fell from the top of the Ferris wheel, but I didn't die. I now live in this mental institution. I can't walk or move. I sit in a wheelchair the entire day. I was charged with first-degree murder and child abduction, but my poor condition made me skip death row. I lost my family and my life. I just don't have hope to get my son back anymore. After all, I was a deranged father and an abusive husband. I did all the wrong things, and I hope those who are watching my story don't make the same mistakes as me. Hold that family close to your chest as long as you have the time. It was my 18th birthday. My dad gave me a free pass to throw a grand party at our lake house. Everyone was going crazy. I was throwing girls at the pool. My friends were opening champagne bottles like a water fountain. I even bathed in some. When the party was in full swing, my eyes suddenly noticed the woods across the backyard. A woman was standing under a tree looking directly at me. Her wide eyes were still like a dead fish. A slick smile appeared on her face. For how long she has been watching us? I felt a little creeped out, but then ignored it. Probably some homeless freak enjoying the view of rich kids spending money. Around 3, everyone started to pass out wherever they could. All my friends slept inside while I dozed off on the pool deck on a sun lounger. I was dreaming of beautiful girls feeding me grapes and giving me all their attention. When someone breathed on my face, I opened my intoxicated eyes and saw that same homeless woman staring down at me. The creepy grin was still on her face. She even had a few missing teeth. Aha! How did you get in here?
Happy birthday, Aaron. It's time to go back home.
What? That's when I heard chaos coming from the house. I ran inside and met with a vicious sight. All my friends were covered in blood. Yes, thick, sticky blood. The metallic tinge choked my lungs, but it was shocking because none of them were hurt. Where did the blood come from? Guys, is this some kind of joke? But my friends were just as confused as me. I ran outside to check on that woman and ask her what the hell was all that, but the woman was gone. She jumped over the fence like a young boy and ran into the woods laughing. My friend Noah came out terrified. Aaron, what is all this? I don't know, man. You all stay here. I'm gonna find out. Just stay in the house, okay? Okay. I grabbed my jacket and flashlight and started walking into the woods. A group of bats flew over my head. I could feel my throat getting dry in fear. Where did she go? Who was she? Suddenly, I heard a strange chanting echoing around the woods. The heavy wind started to blow like a storm had broken out. The chanting voices grew deeper and louder.
Oriri Satanas, Ave Satanas, Benedict Filium Tum Satanas.
The voices were coming from the barren ground amidst the forest. A huge fire was rising to the sky. Men wearing red robes revolved, circling the fire like hypnotized robots. Their weird chant made my skin crawl, but at the same time, I could feel my blood rushing into my veins.
Welcome, Aaron.
I turned around and saw the woman standing behind me. Her hands were covered in blood. She stretched her arms toward me and said,
Come to Mommy. I have been waiting to hold you for the last 17 years.
What? What are you saying?
Did your parents tell you how they stole you from us?
This is all a big lie!
No! You are no human! You are the son of the Dark Lord! You are the offspring of my soulful surrender to him! It's time you accept your powers!
My ears numbed as I couldn't believe a single word that came out of this crazy woman.
Your parents came hiking in these woods years ago, and they stole you from us when you were only a year old. It's time to join your real family, Aaron. Come back. Come back to us!
Just then, the sky broke apart with the screams of my friends. I ran back and saw my lake house was on fire. All my friends were burning inside and banging on the doors. They were locked in and forced to die. I knew I can't save them. I knew it was too late. Thankfully, I had my car keys with me. I never drove this recklessly in my life. When I reached home, my parents were in deep sleep. I rang the doorbell like crazy. After 5 minutes, my dad opened the door and got shocked to see me like that. Aaron, you were supposed to be back tomorrow. What happened?
Dad, all my friends are dead. These men with red robes burnt them alive. And a woman, she says...
What? What did she say?
That you stole me from her. Am I not your son, Mom?
My mom's face turned pale as I dropped the bomb. She and my dad looked at each other.
Please tell me. Is it true? Did you guys steal me when I was a baby?
Aaron, listen. Dad came to hug me, but as he touched me, his body turned to ashes.
No!
I could hear my mom scream, and I was blown away by the sight. I rushed to her to comfort her and to tell her I didn't know what just happened, but as I touched her too, she turned to dust. Both of my parents became dirt just because I touched them. Suddenly, my eyes ached, my heart burned, and I started coughing. I coughed and fell on the floor. Something was trying to come out of me. I held my chest and tried to breathe, but it was getting painful each second. I felt like my intestine will come out from my mouth, but instead, 3 iron nails came out of my throat. I sat down on the ground crying, not understanding what was happening to me. Am I not human? Was that woman right? Am I the son of the Dark Lord? Just then, the door opened and the woman with her red-robed followers walked in.
Aaron, you're 18 now. Your powers have come back. You can't touch any human. They will burn right there. Please, son, come with us. We can teach you all you need to master. Aaron, it's time!
Now, here I'm, living in this house in the woods. Night and day, we pray to the Dark Lord. We make sacrifices. We pay him homage with the blood of the innocents. I can do so much more than just turn people into dust. I can eat their souls. I can drain their blood with just one stare. It's only ironic that my human parents called me Aaron. It means son of the devil. What do you think you're doing in my training area? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that there were assigned spots. There are, new guy! If I see you here again, I'll kill you! Understand? Yes, I'm sorry. Hey, are you okay? Barely. I thought Ivan would kill you. You have to be careful with that brute. Stay away from him. My name's Creed. Rocco. Hey guys, my name is Edgar, but everyone calls me Rocco. That one you just saw was my first day at the gym, and believe it or not, it wasn't the worst. After meeting Creed, I went straight to the gym owner and told him everything. I'm sorry, kid. I can't do anything about it. Ivan's a very big and dangerous man. Unfortunately, I'm afraid of how he might react if I tell him something. After that answer, I decided to leave the gym. I couldn't risk living with that monster. I set up my own gym in my house and started training, but a few days later, I got an unsuspected surprise. My house was destroyed, the gym was ruined, and to make it worse, the invader hadn't left. Hey, who do you think you are trying to build your own gym? Mickey's gym is very empty and will stop working if people don't come. Tomorrow you'll start coming again, or else you'll be as trashed as your house. Do you understand? Yes, Ivan. I'm sorry. I'll be back. Good. After that encounter, I had no choice but to go back to the gym. I stayed as far away as I could from Ivan, who looked at me with a smile on his face. The man was a ticking time bomb, and one day he exploded. A new guy was using Ivan's favorite weights, and like me, he went to threaten him. The problem is that unlike me, the new guy tried to defend himself. Ivan punched him savagely in the face as if he were trying to kill him. With each blow, we could see his face getting more and more disfigured. Creed and I ran to separate them, and the new guy was saved by a miracle. Ivan was furious, behaving like a wild animal waiting to hit everyone in his path. Luckily, Mickey called the police and took him away. A few days later, for the first time, it felt like a normal gym, until something strange started to happen. Creed was behaving strangely. In a few days, he gained a lot of muscle mass, but his mood began to change. He was much more intolerable and violent. He almost looked like Ivan. I stopped to talk to him, but one day when he tripped over my backpack, Creed went crazy. He jumped at me like a furious animal and started slamming me against the wall. He didn't even give me time to speak, to apologize. He was red as a tomato and he looked like he was going to explode. When he let me go, I waited for him to leave to tell Mickey what had happened, and he told me that he thought he knew what was going on, but I had to go to the gym at night to tell me. I waited until dark and went into the gym. Mickey had left the door open. The gym was very dark, so I turned on my cell phone flashlight to see better. As soon as I did, I saw Creed. The giant of a man was clinging to the wall as if he were a spider. The wall had nothing to hold on to. Creed was holding on only with the strength of his hands. As soon as he saw me, the man came running towards me, furious. Rocco, I'm glad you came. I can use you for my training. I need you to hit me. Hit me as hard as you can in the face. I need to test my resistance. Creed, I don't know if I should. Hit me! Terrified, I hit him as hard as I could. His face barely moved a few inches. That's it? Come on! Keep hitting me! I hit him again and again to no avail. What was going on? It was as if he didn't feel my blows. More! After a few seconds, my strength had diminished. I was tired. Furious and disappointed, Creed jumped on top of me and started hitting me. Tell me, Rocco, do I hit harder than Ivan? I'm sure I could destroy him if I wanted to. Creed stopped and put his fingers on my eyes, putting more and more pressure on them. He was trying to kill me. Suddenly, we heard the sound of a shotgun being loaded, and Creed stopped. Mickey was getting closer to us. But the weird thing is that with every step he took, I realized he wasn't aiming at Creed. He was aiming at me. I see you're finally here, Rocco. I was afraid you wouldn't come. I didn't know how to kill you. Why? Ah! Let me go! Shut up! None of you will come out if you scream. You see, the reason Ivan, Creed, and all of them are here is that they're all trying out a new diet supplement that I gave them. You're the one who's driving them crazy? Why? Because thanks to me, they are huge. Look at what I've accomplished. It'll make me a fortune. But you ask a lot of questions. Unfortunately, you have to go. Creed, kill him. Please no! Creed looks at me furiously, but after a few seconds, he turns his head to Mickey and walked towards him. What?
Don't come this way!
Without hesitation, Creed grabbed him by the neck and pulled him in. Within seconds, Mickey was dead. Creed threw the old man down, grabbed his shotgun, and pointed it at me.
Creed, please, we're friends. Don't do it. This is not you.
Creed didn't shoot me. He walked with his shotgun to the gym mirror and looked at himself.
Ah! I will kill you! Release me now!
Dude, let's get out of here.
I'm a monster.
What? What are you talking about?
Suddenly, Creed put the shotgun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. The police soon came. The men locked up were released, but they died within a few weeks, as did Ivan. I still go to gyms, but I only work out. And I have never and will never try anything someone tries to offer me. How far can I go with a prank? Having been an amateur prankster, I always asked myself this question. I would always try to take my pranks a little further and make excuses that the other person didn't have my sense of humor. I usually felt foul of this, but I didn't care. As long as it was funny to me, I would go along with the joke. But one day, making jokes caught the attention of the wrong people, and after what happened that night, I decided to retire from jokes for good. That day, I realized what happens when you prank the wrong person. It all started one night in March. My best friend and I had a YouTube channel where we used to prank people on the street at night. The prank was pretty simple. We would wait for someone to pass by the park at night, and while Ethan was filming, I would come out of a bush disguised as a monster and give them the scare of their life. Some would take it with humor, some would get angry, and some, terrified, would run away. These last ones were the ones we knew in the final recording of the video, as they were undoubtedly the funniest. It was a slow day. People were not showing up, so we agreed that for the first few that did come, I should give them the scare of their lives. We waited a little longer. When a couple finally showed up, I knew I had it easy. Surely both would run desperately. Maybe even the man would leave the couple behind and everything would be filmed. It was going to be fantastic. When he comes out dressed as a clown, I was prepared for the screams, but they never came. Instead, the man rammed me with all his might, and while he held me down, the couple put a plastic bag over my head and tied my hands. I heard new voices of men running in my direction and covering me. I also heard Ethan screaming in the back. Were they doing something to him too? A few seconds later, I heard two men's voices near me. Both of them were lifting me up. I tried to use all my strength to pull myself up, but it was impossible. Both people left me in the back of a car, and shortly after I heard the trunk close, the car accelerated. The trip was long and arduous. I tried to kick, I tried to scream, but I gave up in despair and I cried. Nothing had worked. After several minutes of driving, I recognized that we arrived at a house, and the men transported me again. This time, they were coming down a staircase, and I instantly knew they were dropping me off in a basement. When we arrived, they carefully set me down on the floor and took my bag from me.
Please, let me go. I didn't even see your faces. Please, I don't want to die. My family has no money to pay a ransom.
That's very rude. Look at us. We don't have any plans to let you go away.
What? What will you do with me?
Don't be impatient. You'll know soon enough. Once this was said, they turned off the lights and left the basement, leaving me all alone, plunged into extreme darkness. After several hours, I was able to fall asleep. As I fell asleep, I dreamed of my family, my pets, and my friends. Poor Ethan. He was probably going through what I was going through, and it was all my fault. This was my idea. I cried inconsolably all night until I fell asleep again. When I woke up, the lights were on again. In front of me were the two men who had brought me in, but there were also two new faces. One of them was a huge, curly, tall man. The man was wearing a leather face mask, the killer from the classic horror movie who uses a chainsaw, which from what I could see, he also had on hand. But the one who caught my attention the most was the man who, tied up, was next to him.
Ethan? Mark, I'm scared. I don't want to die. Stay calm, we'll be fine. Someone will come rescue us. Mark, I think I'm gonna die. Don't say that. You know how your mom is. She's probably worried sick, calling all the cops in the area. They'll come to rescue us just because they can't stand her. I'm scared. Ethan, I'm sorry about this. This was all my fault. No, it was their fault. They kidnapped us. They brought us here. Don't ever feel guilty for something you didn't do.
Well, guys, as entertaining as this has been, we also have our own audience to amuse. Bubba, do it. After the order, the tall man grabbed Ethan and placed him inside the locker. After closing it, he turned on the chainsaw and without much effort began to cut through the locker with his saw.
Ethan, no!
Oh my god, your reaction. Priceless.
You're sick!
Your turn, little Mark. Between several men, they lifted me up and put me on top of a table. It was full of different knives, one bigger than the next. You know, we'll take our time with you. Since there's no one to react to your death, you will do it. You, with your own eyes, are going to see how we take out your organs before you die. You will react to your own death. Isn't it fantastic?
Why are you doing this to me?
Because you love to play with other people's reactions. You're a prankster. So are we, in our own way.
This isn't a joke. This is murder.
Oh? I think you just don't understand our sense of humor. Having said that, the man raised one of the knives and started to slowly bring it closer to me. I was surrendered to what the man would do to me. I could only cry and wait for my death. Hey, Mark. It's just a prank, bro.
What?
At that instant, everyone in the room started laughing frantically. The man in the leather face mask took off his mask and laughed too. The locker where Ethan had died suddenly opened, and with a splinter of laughter, my friend walked out unharmed. As I paid attention, I realized that it was not a locker, it was a door. Relax, my friend, we're pranksters, just like you. In this channel, we're in charge of teaching a lesson to the people who make bad jokes, and you were the perfect target. I'm sorry, dude. When they contacted me and told me everything, I couldn't just say no. The idea was phenomenal. Your parents, your siblings, and all your friends also know about this, and they agreed. It seems that they all thought you needed a lesson.
No.
Hey, dude, are you okay?
No, this is not a joke. I'm sure they're still torturing me.
Hey, calm down, Mark. It's over. You're safe.
No! You're not Ethan. They're torturing me, but I will not be fooled.
Blinded by anger and still very confused, I grabbed one of the knives next to me and stabbed the kidnapper. The laughter in the room faded away. Everyone was shocked.
I want to go home. 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 No, Mark! What have you done?
At that moment, I don't remember anything else about the situation. Only that when I heard Ethan, I rushed to him and stabbed him too. After that, it was all screams. Everyone who was there started running. I stabbed one or two more. The rest ran away. Everything that happened at that moment is really very confusing. And after that, I don't remember anything. It's like I had a blackout. After that, the police caught me, and sometime later, I ended up here. A lot of people think I'm here because I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but I'm going to recover. Ethan will soon come and tell them it was all a joke. I'm sure those knives were fake, the blood was fake, and it was all part of their joke. I'm sure they planned it too. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. I am the victim. You will see. Soon they will come to tell me that it was all a joke. I was sitting in my room scrolling through Netflix's new release list. I was dying for something new to watch, something that would really get my heart racing. I finally settled on a horror movie that looked promising and settled in for a good scare. Lately, I hadn't been getting enough of a scare from movies. They all seemed so fake and staged, but this one looked different. It was a found footage movie, and I love those because they always feel more real. I was halfway into the movie when I really started getting into it. Suddenly, however, I looked down at my phone and realized that I got a text message. At first, I thought it was my friend, but then I saw that it was from my Netflix account. I needed to reset my password for some reason. I clicked on the link and went through the process of resetting my password. A little note popped up, telling me my reset had been successful. I set my phone down and resumed the movie. But soon, I started to feel uneasy, and I didn't think it was coming from the movie itself. I've watched hundreds of horror movies, from 1930s Dracula, Psycho, The Shining, and Silence of the Lambs, but this felt different. I felt a chill run down my spine. It felt like someone was watching me, but that was obviously crazy since I live alone. I slowly turned my head to the door of my room, half expecting to see a masked killer standing there, but there was nothing. I shook my head and chalked it up to being jumpy from the movie and settled back in. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I sighed to myself, annoyed at how silly I was being. Still, I paused the movie and got up to check all the locks on my doors and windows, even though I knew they were all secure. I tried to tell myself that I was just being a paranoid wuss and decided to finish the movie. The credits were rolling when I heard a noise coming from outside my window. My head turned at the sound and I slowly got up. Those raccoons better not have gotten into my trash again. I swear I was going to call animal control. As I looked out though, I noticed my trash cans were untouched. What caught my eye instead was a strange shadow next to my neighbor's house. I looked at it for a few minutes, trying to figure out what it was. Then, I saw it move. It was too big to be a raccoon. I could see the glint of moonlight off of something in its hand, and my heart started pounding in my chest. I was frozen in place, not knowing what to do. Then, it turned and looked directly at me, and I could see the outline of its body. It looked like the outline of a human, but he must have been wearing a mask. I couldn't see his eyes, but I could feel them staring at me through the darkness. I'm just dreaming. I went to bed and I must be experiencing some weird lucid dream right now. My head seemed to believe I was in some lucid dream, but my body didn't think so. I stood there, frozen, staring at what seemed to be the man half hidden in the shadows. The man, or whatever it was, started walking towards my house, and I could see him getting closer and closer. My heart started pounding in my chest, and I could feel the blood rushing through my veins. I kept telling my body to move, to go back to bed, and I'd wake up from this weird dream. The figure was now at my window, and suddenly I could see their face clearly. He wasn't wearing a mask. His face was disfigured, barely recognizable as a human. His eyes were slightly lopsided, and a large chunk of his face looked like it was missing. He was grinning at me, a sick, twisted grin that sent chills down my spine. He raised his hand, and I could see that he was holding some sort of curved knife. It was a sickle, something that would be unmistakable to any horror addict. I rushed backward, tripping over the edge of my bed and landing with a thud on the floor. The man at the window just kept grinning at me, his sickle raised in the air. In a sudden panic, I scrambled to my feet and ran to the door of my room, throwing it open and sprinting into the kitchen. Dream or not, I needed to have some sort of weapon. I always hated when people in movies would just run around aimlessly. I yanked open the drawer and grabbed a small, but still useful kitchen knife. I could hear the man, or whatever it was, scratching at my window.
What the heck? What the?
I looked around, trying to formulate some sort of plan. I knew I didn't have the upper hand here. There was no way I could fight him. He was twice my size, and from the looks of his face, he knew how to use a weapon.
Okay, calm down. Just think. What would Elm Street Freddy do in a situation like this?
I racked my brain, trying to think of some sort of solution. I didn't have any answers. Suddenly, however, the scratching at the window stopped. I stood still, not even breathing as I waited. Was he gone? I felt my heart plummet as I heard the man start to bang on the door.
Get it together. Get it together.
I kept whispering harshly to myself, trying to force myself to think of something. The thuds grew louder. He must have been kicking at the door now. Suddenly, however, reality hit me. How could I have been so dumb? I needed my phone. I needed to call 911. I got up and ran to my bedroom, desperately trying to reach my phone, just as the door to my apartment burst open. He rushed at me and grabbed my shirt with his blade. I felt the sharp edge slice through my skin, and I cried out in pain. The man lifted me up with one hand and slammed me against the wall. The man just grinned at me, his eyes filled with a sickening hunger.
Please just let me go.
The man didn't say anything. He just kept grinning at me, his knife raised in the air, ready to strike again. I was gonna die. There was no way out of this. No wonder horror movies always depicted the main character as slow and dumb. I was the same way. I had been so stupid for not trying to reach my phone sooner. The man brought his knife down and I closed my eyes, waiting for the end.
You think I'd let you die that easily? I didn't hack into your phone for nothing.
I slowly opened my eyes and saw the man grinning wickedly, his face barely inches from mine.
What are you talking about? I mean, I would have hacked into your phone for your location and IP address for an easy hunt. The fun has just begun.
I saw his hand rise again and brought the hilt of his sickle down toward my face. Then I saw black. I jolted awake, seeing the credits rolling. I groaned.
I must have fallen asleep. What a dream.
I slowly stood up, feeling disoriented. As I walked to the window, however, my heart dropped. The window was covered in scratch marks, as if made by a blade. Do you think you can find love on a social network? Many of the people I talk to tell me yes, but others disagree. I don't really have an answer, but I'll be honest. After what I experienced that night, I really don't want to try. It all started the day a girl added me on Snapchat. Her name was Cheryl. The girl was very nice, and she had a huge amount of followers. I was just learning how to use the platform, so I didn't understand how this girl could be interested in me, but at the same time, those were just numbers. Over time, I started to become more active on the platform and began to attract Cheryl's attention. She would like my photos, and over time, we started talking to each other. When I would talk to her, I would realize why she had added me before. Despite her huge number of followers, the girl was simple and authentic. She wasn't interested in being famous at all. She just liked the idea of connecting with people. She sent me pictures of herself all the time, and I did the same. We talked all day and knew everything about each other. After 3 months, we were almost in a relationship, but as I was getting ready to take her out to a movie, something weird happened. One day, she sent me a selfie while she was cooking, but behind her disinterested smile, something caught my attention. Hey, Cheryl? Did you invite someone to your house?
What? No, why do you ask?
I saw Cheryl's selfie again, and I was very confused. From the kitchen, you could see her room, and it looked like there was a silhouette staring from it, looking at her from the darkness. Listen, I don't want to alarm you, but look at your picture. Doesn't it look like there's someone in your room? Cheryl took a few seconds to answer me. I'm sure she was checking the picture.
OMG, I think it's a piece of furniture, but it looks scary. I don't know if I want to go check it out.
Are you sure that's a piece of furniture? Maybe you should call the police. Cheryl didn't answer me for a while, so much so that I started to worry. Hey, are you there? You're worrying me.
Here I am. I just walked into my room, and it was just a piece of furniture. Although I must admit that I'm very scared. The piece of furniture doesn't look that much like the silhouette in the picture.
When I saw the picture, I was confused. It could be a trick of the light, but I wasn't sure. I don't know.
I just checked the house. I'm definitely alone.
Well, I'm more relaxed, but be careful. After that, Cheryl kept cooking, and we didn't bring up that topic again. Unfortunately, this would not last long. The next day, as soon as Cheryl came back from work, she told me she was back home safely and sent me a selfie of herself smiling. In the picture, she looked worried, She must have had a bad day. I tried to give her a pep talk to calm her down, but something weird was going on. She wasn't responding to me anymore. As the hours went by, I became more and more worried. I looked at her picture constantly, and in it, there was something I had not noticed. From the window of her house, someone was watching her. This was no coincidence. It wasn't a tree or someone just passing by. This was a person standing at the window of her house, staring at her. Immediately, I received a message from her. When I read it, I can swear my heart stopped. In the message, it said that someone had kidnapped her, but she still had her cell phone. She shared her location and sent me a picture via Snapchat to show me where she was. It looked like she was in a car. She knew the streets where she was going, and she was a few kilometers away. That day, I was at a party at my house with my friends, so I asked them to call the police and I ran to where she was. I could have told them to help me, but I knew it could be dangerous and I didn't want to involve them. After all, the gathering was at my house, and just in case, I always kept a gun to use in case of an emergency. As the minutes passed, I somehow felt like I was catching up to a moving car. I guess the car was moving pretty slow, but I was running like never before in my life. I had to save Cheryl. I would never forgive myself for having the chance to help her and not doing so. After several minutes, Cheryl stopped moving and she sent me one last picture. It looked like a dark alley with a gray door in the middle. Surely this was where they were going to hide her. I ran the last few blocks and in an act of stupidity thought I could save her alone, so I entered the alley. I approached the gray door I had seen in the photo and opened the door, but before I could enter, I heard someone walking behind me.
It looks like Romeo came to save Juliet.
I turned around, pointing my gun in the direction of the voice, but when I saw who was in front of me, I couldn't believe it. It was Cheryl. She was safe, looking at me with a cocky, playful smile. Suddenly, a man came out of the gray door and threw me to the floor, pulling out my gun.
Did you bring a gun? What were you gonna do, Indiana Jones? Kill us all? Cheryl, run! Run while you can!
Something was wrong. Cheryl wasn't running away, but it wasn't because she was afraid. She was laughing. Cheryl?
Boy, I have to admit, it's really sweet that you came to save me. It seems I chose well. I've always been good at judging people at a glance.
What are you talking about?
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry for the rudeness. This is John, my boyfriend.
Nice to meet you, Felix. Cheryl tells me you're very athletic and you don't drink alcohol. Is that true?
What?
Excuse me. John is quite abrupt, but these are questions we need to ask you. We need to know how your organs are.
What are you talking about? Let me go! You see, Stud, Cheryl and I are in the business of selling organs on the black market. In this warehouse, we have a few tools to keep your organs looking like new. Do you know how much they offer them on the black market?
A lot of money. And we've only done it with bums. Your organs must be excellent.
No, please, I beg of you, let me go!
Hey, I've grown very fond of you in these months, Felix. I'm not doing this for the money. I want to have a souvenir of you.
With a huge smile, Cheryl pulled a pocket knife out of her pocket. Quickly, she took off my slippers and socks, and coolly, she put her knife to the little toe of my foot.
Are you ready, beautiful?
No, please. No, please.
Before I could finish begging her, Cheryl ripped my pinky toe off with tremendous speed and precision. The pain was immediate. I felt myself starting to lose blood, and worst of all, I knew it was just the beginning.
Cheryl, stop playing. We have to go.
All right. But first, let me take out his eye. I'm not satisfied with just a finger.
Oh, come on!
With the knife in hand, Cheryl slowly approached my eye. Her smile was shining. She looked so excited and happy, and I could tell she was having a good time. Suddenly, Cheryl froze still, frozen in fear. Someone was holding a knife to her neck. John stood up and tried to get into the house again, but 4 other men stopped him, threw him to the floor, and started hitting him. They were my friends.
Felix, are you all right?
Isaac? What are you doing here?
Come on, we have to get you to a hospital. We'll tell you later.
And that's how it all ended. Some of my friends took me to the hospital while others stayed with Cheryl and John. On the way, I could see several police cars heading toward the area. My friends told me that they didn't trust me and that they knew something was wrong, so they went on Snapchat from my computer and saw all the pictures Cheryl was sending. One of them knew that alley, so between all of them, they grabbed the knives from my house and headed there as soon as possible. After that, the police arrested the criminal couple. Apparently, they had already been charged with robbery and attempted murder, but nothing like this time. For my part, I still believe that one can fall in love through a social network, but for the moment, I prefer to date the girls that my friends introduced me to. At least, I know they're more trustworthy. Last year, on April Fool's Day, I planned to prank our parents. I'm Noah, and this is my story. My parents were going to stay home all day as it was the weekend. I thought to sneak out in the evening, leaving a ransom note behind. I know, it was kind of stupid, but for an 11-year-old, I knew they would go frantic. I was going to wait at the next block for an hour until I see cop cars rushing to our house. They would call 911. So, around 7, when my mom called me for dinner from downstairs, I started climbing down the window with my backpack. My dad was showering, so everything was a free pass. Great timing, right? Once I ended up in the backyard, I heard my mom call again.
Noah, are you coming or not?
I jumped the fence when she started walking upstairs. In the next 5 minutes, I was halfway ahead. Cars drove past me as I went by the sidewalk. I stopped near a bench. It was time to wait now. I sat down to eat a sandwich I brought. I was totally into the food when I saw a black minivan parked on the other side of the road. The car door was left open. No one was inside. I shrugged it off. After waiting for an hour, I started to get restless. What was wrong? Why haven't they called the cops yet? Even if they see it as a prank, they will definitely be worried about their 11-year-old son roaming the streets at night. Fine, screw it. I'm going home. I got up. I rushed home and took a deep breath seeing the porch light on. Maybe they don't know it. Or maybe they're waiting for me to come back. I pushed the door and found it open. The dimly lit hallway stood on the other side. I stepped in.
Noah.
I slowly turned my head to the right. It's the way to our basement. I saw my mom. She was peeing from behind the basement door. Her eyes were calm, but she had a pale face, like she was scared but pretending not to be. She made this hand gesture calling me toward her. I didn't understand, so I just stood there, confused. That's when I heard footsteps in my room upstairs.
Noah, there's a bad man in the house. Come here, quickly.
I finally realized there was an intruder in our house. I tiptoed to my mom. She took me in her arms and without making any sound, locked the basement door.
Mom, what's going on? Where's Dad?
I'm down here, kiddo. Everything's fine.
Mom, I want to see Dad.
No, you don't need to come down here. Stay with your mom. Just do what she says. You'll be fine. I promise. I was on the verge of crying. We were in danger. My mom wiped my tears. Her hands were so cold from fear as well.
You are my brave boy. No need to cry. You see that window up there?
I turned around my head. There was a small window that opened in our backyard.
Good boy. Now, I'm going to lift you, and you will get out and go straight to our neighbors, okay?
But Mom, what about you and Dad?
You will get us help. Tell Mrs. Kinski to call 911. Can you do that?
I looked into her eyes. They were still calm, but now she had a weird smile on her face. The pale moonlight made her blue eyes look bigger. She was staring down at me with so much kindness in her heart. I nodded my head.
Yeah, I can do that.
Very good. Come here. Don't make any noise, okay?
Okay. Dad, I'm gonna get some help for you guys.
Bravo, bud. I'm so proud of you. I gathered all my courage and asked my mom to lift me to the window. She grabbed me by the waist, but it was so uncanny, I didn't feel the touch of her hand. It was me floating up in the air. Once I reached the level, I pushed the window and crawled out. I turned back to look, but my mom was gone. I was just staring into the dark basement. I ran to our neighbors. Miss Kinski opened the door after the fourth bell. She took me in and I was crying and panting. I told her how I was trying to April Fool my parents and left. But when I came back, I saw and heard someone's footsteps upstairs. My mom and dad are still in the house and I need her to call 911. Kinski did that right away. In the next few minutes, I heard the cop cars approaching. I opened her door, waiting for my parents to come back. There were 2 cop cars outside, and the policemen were ravaging the house. I even heard gunshots. A few minutes later, another siren started approaching our house. It was the ambulance. The cops came out holding a man, handcuffed. He was bleeding from his shoulder, which explained the gunshots. This was the intruder. I thank God for him getting caught. Finally, my parents can come out now. I watched with enthusiasm and hope. All the policemen came out. Nobody said a single word. They all just looked at each other, and then 4 more policemen came out with 2 stretchers. There were black plastic bags on them. The guys from the ambulance took them in. That's when my eyes moved to the left corner of the street. Under the lamppost, 2 people were standing, a man and a woman. They had blood all over their body. The woman had a knife gutted into her stomach, and the man had no brain. A cold shiver ran down my spine. They were none other than my mom and dad. They had 6 smiles on their faces. They slowly raised their arms and waved at me, retaining their smile, and disappeared into the thin air.
You are Noah, right?
I snapped back to reality, hearing the policeman's voice. He hugged me and said, I need to stay with my grandparents for a few days. I asked him why, but he just asked another cop to escort me to the police van. I came to know later that on the night of the 1st of April, a man with the intention of robbery came to our house. He succeeded to get in from my bedroom window, which I left open on my way to sneaking out. As he stepped in from the window, he got face to face with my mom, reading my ransom letter. My mom tried to scream, and the robber stabbed her to shut her mouth. Her body was found on my bed. Once the robber managed to come down the stairs, he saw my dad walking up the basement stairs. Before he could step out into the living room, he took out his gun and bashed his brains out, making him fall back on the basement floor. The wall of our basement was spray printed by his remains. I never told anyone that even after being dead hours back, my parents' spirits stayed back waiting for me. They knew I wouldn't make it on my own, so they guided me like my angels and helped me save my life. Sometimes, at night, I wake up hearing my mom calling me from the closet door.
Noah, Noah, Noah.
I have always hated mirrors. Ever since I was a kid, I found them creepy. There was something terrifying about looking into one and seeing yourself staring right back, with the same hair and the same smile, but it was never quite you, was it? It was always wrong somehow, inverted. And if you looked long enough, that reflection started to look like a completely different person. These thoughts ran through my mind as I stood outside the building labeled House of Mirrors. It was part of the act of some rundown carnival that came through my city once or twice every year. Every time they rolled around with their tents and banners, I'd hold out hope that they'd finally brought something interesting along. Every time, I was treated to the same boring acts they had last year and the year before that. A strong man who was too old to carry himself around these days, a phony oracle who looked her clients up on Facebook while she prepared for the seance. It was all hokey anyway. Are you gonna go in or what? It was Ben, my friend from school. He always came along with me for stuff like this. What for? We both know it's gonna be stupid.
Yeah, and? We paid $10 to get in here. Might as squeeze every last cent out of it.
Yeah, might as well. An old man ran out of the building at that moment. He knelt in the dirt beside us and sifted some sand through his fingers. There was something vaguely familiar about him, although I couldn't quite place where exactly it was that we'd met.
No. This is all wrong. I have to go back.
With that, he ran back into the House of Mirrors. I exchanged a look with Ben. What do you think? Is he a part of the act? Hell if I know, but at least there's finally something interesting in this dump. I had never been into the House of Mirrors before. Like everything else in this place, I had assumed it lacked any real excitement. But as I stood outside it on this day, it beckoned to me. And despite myself, I answered its call. I stepped inside the gaping mouth of the creepy character painted outside the building and got lost in the maze of mirrors within. My reflections surrounded me on every surface at every corner, each one staring creepily at me. I felt like I was being watched, followed. I felt my heart begin to race faster. Hello? Is there someone else in here? God damn it. I wandered around the House of Mirrors for a little while longer, trying to find my way to the exit. But with every step I took, I felt a cold fear creep in, closer and closer. Screw this, I'm out of here. I turned around, hoping to trace my footsteps back to the entrance, but I soon found that I was lost. The narrow passages I had walked through just moments ago had disappeared into the mess of mirrors, and I was left alone, surrounded by a dozen versions of myself. Ben? I need help! I can't find my way back! Ben? Ben can't hear you anymore. No one can. I spun back around quickly, trying to follow the sound of the voice, but just as suddenly as it had come, it was gone. Perhaps it was the old man we had seen run into the building earlier, and this was all just part of the experience. Fine, I'll play along. I spent a while more wandering the maze of mirrors until I found my way out. Finally. I practically ran towards the exit, my mind and body not wanting to spend any more time inside this building. When I emerged, however, there was no sign of Ben on the other side. I tried asking around for him, but everyone on the outside ignored me. Hey, have you seen my friend? He was just standing right there like 5 minutes ago. Hey, hello? It creeped me out a bit, to be honest. Maybe my breath smelled weird, or maybe this was all just part of some elaborate practical joke being pulled on me by someone. After asking around for a few minutes and getting no response from anyone, I decided to head home. Chances were Ben just got bored and went home. Everything seemed odd somehow, inverted. Cars were on the wrong side of the road. Billboards, too. Taxi! Hey, taxi! The cab I called just sped past me, without any signs of slowing down, and it was empty. I started to get worried. The voice I'd heard back in the House of Mirrors came back to me. Ben can't hear you anymore. No one can. I ran home as fast as my legs could carry me. I bumped into people on the road, but for some reason did not seem to notice or care. I started to get the feeling that something was very wrong. I arrived at my house soon after and peered in through the windows. My heart froze. No freaking way. There on the dining table, eating dinner with the rest of my family, was me. Myself, another Colin. But it was different somehow. Off. Just like the reflections back in the House of Mirrors. But the rest of my family didn't suspect a thing. I watched the thing disguised as myself until it finished dinner and headed upstairs. Then, I snuck in after it. I took a deep breath and confronted it in my room. Who are you and what the hell are you doing in my house? The thing that was not me laughed, like I had just told a joke. I reached for a baseball bat in a corner. What are you gonna do with that? Hit me? You can't. You're nothing more than a reflection now. My reflection. Just as I once was to you. What are you talking about? I'm real. To be honest, I didn't sound very convincing. We both know you aren't. No one can hear you anymore. You exist in another plane now, inverted. You noticed it too. I looked in the mirror beside me, but found that I had no reflection. I was the reflection, and the thing that wore my face laughed again. I have your life now. your dreams, your hopes, your wants. I am you.
No. No. No!
I charged at the figure and swung my bat at its head, but the effect of all my strength, all my rage, was nothing more than a crack in the mirror. I woke to find myself strapped to a chair, the faint hum of a forklift echoing around me.
Help! Is anyone out there?
The laughter I heard in response was enough to make my skin crawl. I had to get out of there and fast. Suddenly, the ropes dropped from the chair and I was free. I raced through the warehouse, desperately searching for an escape route. I threw open a door and found myself face to face with a guy in a Jason mask.
What the? Who are you?
The only response he gave was raspy breathing. He raised a machete and I felt my heart stop. I needed to hide. I dodged his swing and ran, my heart pumping with fear as I scrambled into his supply closet. I frantically looked around and noticed a trap door in the ceiling. I climbed up, hoping to find an escape route. The ladder was long, and I felt my arms aching as I continued the climb, the darkness around me only broken by faint lights built into the wall. When I finally reached the top, I opened the door and looked around. The room was dark, but I managed to see an object in the distance. Climbing out and creeping toward it, I realized it was a chair, the same chair I had been strapped to earlier. My heart sank as I tried to comprehend what was going on. I had to find a way out, and fast. I ran for the door, only to be greeted by two men in Jason masks. They were blocking my path, and they began to close in on me.
What do you want from me? Why are you doing this?
I had no time to wait for an answer. As they came closer, however, something happened that left me speechless. Their limbs holding machetes began to fall off, as if they were made of plastic. As their bodies fell to the floor in front of me, I finally realized what these figures were and where I was. I had stumbled my way into a warehouse filled with animatronic horror characters. The sound of a forklift getting closer alerted me to the danger that lay ahead. I could see it coming from the shadows, driven by a man wearing a clown mask.
Hey, you there! What's going on?
He pressed a button and two more animatronic figures came out of the shadows. They were famous horror characters, ones I had seen in movies but never wanted to face in real life. Suddenly, the lights went completely out. The man in the clown mask was chasing me, and I felt my legs start to give out from fear.
No, get away from me!
I sprinted for the door, only to find that it was locked. I frantically searched around and noticed a large red button on the wall. I pushed it and the door opened up, revealing an exit out of the warehouse.
Yes, I'm free!
The laughter echoing behind me only increased my fear as I ran out of the warehouse and into a nearby forest. The rain started to pour. I just kept running, noticing that my legs and arms were moving slower. I felt tired, old, and aged.
I just gotta keep running.
I pressed forward, running through the dark trees as I heard the sound of a forklift getting closer and closer. I finally looked back and I saw the man in the clown mask, his laughter ringing in my ears. I could see his animatronics coming toward me as well. They were made of metal, and their limbs began to rust in the rain as they chased after me. I dodged behind several trees, making sure the man couldn't follow me in his forklift. I needed to find a way out. Finally, I stumbled across an abandoned mine shaft and scrambled inside, praying for safety. I hid in the dark, breathing heavily as I heard the forklift getting closer.
I always know where you are. There's no hiding from me, you know.
I held my breath and sank into a corner, trying to make myself as small as possible. Suddenly, however, I heard the footsteps of the man in the clown mask getting closer. He was coming into the mine shaft, and I knew that he would find me. I had to make a run for it, and I tried to leap from the corner where I was hidden to make a break for it. With a pure feeling of horror, however, I realized something. My arms and legs couldn't move. Looking down, I realized they were rusted, just like the animatronics. With a sinking feeling of dread, I knew that my fate was sealed. I finally realized what I was and why I had been in that warehouse. My body, animatronic like the others, had completely rusted now. I couldn't move any longer, and I was doomed to stay in that mineshaft forever, or until he caught me.
Looks like I'll have to reset your mind again.
I saw him coming closer, and with a final murmur, I closed my eyes. His laughter echoed in my ears as the darkness enveloped me. The last thing I saw was the man reaching out to grab me.
My name is Steven. I don't have much time left, but I want to get this story out there so anyone can read it online. Just don't ignore the rotting smell. I'm not sure how many of them are out there. It was only yesterday that I was preparing for prom, my date soon to be by my side. I drove along the empty road, excitement filling my veins, until I pulled up in front of Sarah's house. She was the girl I had been crushing on since freshman year, and I was eager to take her to the prom. Sarah, you look amazing.
Thanks, Steven.
We hugged and chatted as we drove off towards the prom venue, but there was something that I couldn't shake, a foul odor lingering in the air. What's that strange smell?
I don't know. Let's just roll the windows down,
And so, as we arrived at the prom, I led her to the dance floor, where we proceeded to enjoy our night. Everything seemed perfect, until the lights suddenly went out.
Sarah? Sarah, where are you?
I couldn't seem to find her anywhere. I was reaching out in front of myself, groping along the floor, till I felt someone lying there.
Hey, who's there? Are you okay?
And with a click, the lights came back on. I recoiled, my face wrinkled in disgust and horror. 2 dead bodies were lying on the floor in front of me, and chaos broke out. Kids were screaming and yelling, but my mind instantly went to Sarah. Where was she? I had to find her. So I ran out the doors and toward the forest behind the prom venue. As I ran, I heard a faint voice calling out my name.
Steven! Steven, come help me!
It was Sarah, so I ran faster. When I reached her, I saw that she was standing in the middle of a large circle of candles. I stepped into the circle. Sarah, what are you doing here? What are these candles for? We have to get back. There are dead bodies.
Steven, come closer.
Closer? What do you mean? We need to get out of here. As I stepped forward, however, she grabbed her face and pulled. It was then I saw the disgusting sight underneath. Rotting and dead, the skin which had covered her rotting flesh easily slid off, and I was faced with her rotting and mangled corpse. The worst part, however, was that she was still moving. What the heck? What are you?
I'm dead, Steven. I died, and now I need a sacrifice to come back to life. But I only have until the moon rises. I'm sorry, Steven. I wanted it to be someone else.
She then lunged toward me, trying to take my life as her own. I tried to run away, but the candle seemed to have formed some type of barrier, keeping me from exiting the circle. Turning back toward her, I barely had time to react before she was at my throat. She had leapt across the circle at superhuman speeds and grabbed my throat with both hands, throwing me to the ground.
Sarah! Don't do this!
I'm sorry, Steven. I can't die. You understand, don't you?
She began to chant, her voice echoing through the clearing. As she finished, however, she looked confused.
What? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working?
Just then, the moon rose above the horizon. As its light shone down on us, Sarah's body seemed to collapse and fall apart. I walked away from that dark place, my mind in a fog. I got into my car and drove home. I didn't even bother to head back to the school, back to where I could see the police lights shining. As I drove, however, I could smell something. A strange rotting smell that seemed to grow stronger as I got closer and closer to my parents' house.
I pulled into the driveway and stumbled out of the car, heading towards the bathroom. What I saw in the mirror, however, scared me. My body was rotting away, my skin turning a sickly gray, and my veins growing dark. I was dead, yet still alive. That's why the ritual didn't work. It wanted a living sacrifice, not a dead one. And even as I write this, my body is rotting away. I have to find a way out of this. If I don't, you can be sure that there are more of us out there. So please, if you find yourself in a similar situation, don't ignore the rotting smell. Goodbye. My name is Alan. I have a channel on YouTube in which I dedicate myself to solve paranormal mysteries. Unlike the other channels, I'm not one of those people who pretend to find a ghost and overact everything that happens. No. What I'm really dedicated to is to prove that all of this is a lie and to unmask all these fakers who only deceive people. You can tell me I'm boring, but in fact, a lot of people watched my channel. As soon as there was a new case that became popular, everyone would come to my channel and see how I was doing to disprove it. And to the surprise of everyone who hated me for it, every time I succeeded. Every time, except for one. Only one time. Something so scary, so real, and so aggressive happened that from that day on, I was forced to believe. It all started on Reddit. A post on a horror subreddit warned us that something strange was happening on Netflix. The person who wrote the post said that he knows the creators of a new show on the platform. A show that wasn't good, wasn't promoted, and didn't attract attention. But he knew that its creators were in cults. He also added that the show was cursed and that no one should watch it, because with a specific combination of buttons while watching it, it was going to take us to a hidden film in the show. A film that was cursed. I quickly realized this was not real. It was surely an attempt to promote a small show. Although this user didn't say what the cursed combination was, another Reddit user was quick to share it, although I suspected it was the same one from another account. Quickly, all the YouTube channels started talking about this, saying that several people had disappeared after doing this. It said that no one came back and the few that survived were totally insane, which is totally uncheckable. As you can imagine, my audience expected something from me, and I was going to give it to them. I usually upload my videos very quickly, so the subject matter doesn't go out of style. So, I started immediately. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't choose that time for any special reason, I was just busy earlier, but I knew that time had satanic implications. Without turning around, I searched for the show and started watching it. Before I made the button combination, I watched the show a bit to see what it was about. It was pretty boring. Very, very poorly filmed and unoriginal. I understand why they needed to put on this whole circus to get anyone to watch it. Bored with the show, I paused it at the moment the Reddit user indicated and pressed the button combination. I watched for a moment, but nothing happened. It was all a lie. What a surprise. I took advantage of the fact that the show was on hiatus to go to the bathroom for a bit to freshen up. A part of me felt disappointed. Whenever I do any of these things, I always hope that something will happen, but I'm usually disappointed. I went back to the dining room and to my surprise, something had changed. The show was no longer on pause, and what was on the TV was something familiar. I approached in confusion, and after a few seconds, it hit me. It was my house. The person who was on the TV was not an actor. It was me. What? This can't be. At first, I thought I was being hijacked, but then I realized that didn't even make sense. My TV doesn't have cameras. How were they filming me? The remote controller didn't work, and when I turned off the TV, nothing happened. I unplugged the TV, but it was still on. No. What's going on? This can't be real. Oh, but it is, Alan. Confused, I looked up to find the source of the voice, and to my surprise, it wasn't just coming from the TV, it was coming from my TV filming. You wanted to prove that this was fake, right? What will you tell your followers now? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was so terrified I wanted to vomit. I ran desperately to the exit door, but to my surprise, it was gone. Instead, there was only a wall, the same wall as the rest of my house. I ran to the windows, but they were gone too. There was no way out. I heard a strange noise in the dining room, so against my better judgment, I checked out the source of the noise. The only thing I can tell you is that I regret having done it. I regret not hiding immediately and having to witness what I witnessed. As I watched TV, I could see how that being who spoke to me, that being who had my face and body, who I only thought was a film of me, was coming out. But this one had changed. It was like a nightmarish version of myself. His face was disfigured, and his huge grin was so big that it made his eyes look like they were domineering. His clothes were torn and full of blood, and half of his face looked like it was melted. When he looked at me, pieces began to fall off his face. There was no blood behind them, just flesh, and in some places bone. Alan, this doesn't seem real enough for you.
This is impossible. I must be dreaming. This can't be real.
Oh, you still don't believe me? I'll have to pinch your cheeks to make you see that this is not a dream. Nervously, I closed my eyes and rubbed them as hard as I could. Was I hallucinating? I opened my eyes again, and to my surprise, there was no one there. Ah! Now you look more like me. Grabbing my face, I ran as far as I could. I reached the kitchen and hid behind the table, knife in hand. Meanwhile, I heard footsteps getting louder and louder behind me. Your face was priceless. Don't you understand how this works yet, Alan?
I set the rules here!
At that moment, I decided I had to fight. I used my knife and pierced her throat as hard as I could. From it, no blood came out, but a strange black liquid. Suddenly, I heard my front door open.
Honey, I came home. I brought a pizza.
That was my girlfriend's voice. I ran to the door and she almost dropped the pizza because I hugged her so hard.
I can't believe you're here. I thought I was gonna die.
She hugged me tighter, much tighter.
Hey, what's wrong? You're hurting me.
Honey, you say you're an investigator, and yet you don't notice me coming home at 3 a.m. with a pizza? You're so adorable.
Let me go.
You know, I'd love for you to stay here, but I need you.
What do you want?
Suddenly, you're more cooperative. But I like it. You know, a lot of people watch your videos. You should make a video of what you're going through. Be honest. Tell everything that happened in detail.
Why?
Because I want to play with new people. Tell them all the steps you did to get here. But also tell them that for nothing in the world should they ever watch this show. Even beg them not to. If you don't, I'll come for you. And your girlfriend.
What? It was all a dream?
Unfortunately, when I went to the bathroom, I realized it wasn't a dream, since I still had the mark on my face. In the following days, I dedicated myself to making this video, and when I uploaded it, it quickly went viral. After a few months, Netflix found out about these rumors and took the show down, so I was able to remove my video without fear of consequences. I never played with the paranormal again, and even though I still do investigations, they're of crimes with humans. Regarding the Possessed show, it's no longer on Netflix, but many resubbed it, and if you look hard enough, you'll find it along with its instructions. But as someone who almost didn't live to share that experience, I warn you, for nothing in the world should you watch this show. I beg you, just don't do it. Hey, my name is Seth, and I'll tell you the story of my first job. As soon as I finished school, I dedicated all my time to getting a job to help my parents. To my surprise, in just 1 month, I had an office job. After a huge interview of more than 20 people, the only ones left for the job were Merlina and me. We were both very happy to have started working, and we became friends. Who were not happy were our coworkers. From the first day, they didn't look at us. They treated us rudely or pushed us with their bodies when they passed by us. At lunchtime, we could both see them staring at us from their tables. They talked about us and didn't hide it. We were both really scared. Something strange was going on with them. After that, you can imagine our surprise when one of them approached us to invite us to a birthday party. Did they want to integrate us, and have they changed their minds? We both looked confused, but accepted. On the day of the party, we both walked into the house with a gift for the birthday boy. We were both shocked. More than a house, it was a mansion. Some of our colleagues opened the door and took us to the lobby, and when we arrived, we were shocked. This did not look like a birthday party at all. The whole place was full of satanic drawings everywhere. In the center of the room, there was a huge pentagram drawn in blood, and behind it, all of our coworkers were wearing long black robes, hiding their face with hoods. As soon as they saw us, the people who opened the door grabbed us from behind and held us back. Down the stairs to the lobby, Edwin, the birthday boy, came down in a red tunic with his face uncovered.
Good evening, guys. Welcome to my birthday.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Leave us alone!
Remain calm. One of you will leave here alive. What do you mean, one of us? You see, this is my birthday, and my birthday present is a sacrifice. Both would be great sacrifices, but why kill you both? Let's make the night fun.
You're a psycho!
Unfortunately, your life depends on this psycho, so you must play by my rules, little girl. What are those rules? Let me enlighten you. You will both have 1 minute to hide throughout the house. I'm to look for them and find them with this. First one I find loses. Whoever's left alive can escape if he promises to keep quiet. What's more, you can join the clan.
You're crazy! We'll never join!
Oh, one more thing. The clock is already ticking. At this warning, we both ran desperately to hide. I tried to escape, but all the windows were locked and boarded up. The door through which we entered was also locked. I thought about banging on it, but that would only attract Edwin. Suddenly, I began to hear footsteps near me. I hid under the table in the kitchen, waiting for him to pass by. But the footsteps were getting closer and closer. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped, and a silence takes over the room. I must have managed to throw him off.
Here you are, little Seth.
You lost. When he pointed the shotgun at me, I felt my whole life flash before my eyes. I was already surrendered to death, but at least Merlina would escape. When Edwin pulled the trigger, I felt something cold on my face, and a laugh. The shotgun was shooting a small stream of water, and Edwin was laughing uncontrollably.
What? That was the best newcomer prank we've ever played.
Oh no. Best birthday ever. There's no cult. It's an initiation joke for the newbies. And since it was my birthday, I took the opportunity to come up with the joke. We'll be talking about this for years. Are you crazy? You put us through this just for a prank? We thought we were going to die. Furious, I went to the hall to look for Merlina. Surely she would have heard by now. But when I got to the hall, my angry face turned to terror. All my coworkers, they were all dead. It was a massacre. Their bodies were torn to pieces and scattered all over the place.
What? What's going on here?
Is this a part of the joke?
No, I have no idea what...
Interrupting Edwin, the light goes out for a second, and when it comes on again, Edwin is dead on the floor with his throat open. I heard a noise in front of me, and when I turned around in the middle of the pentagram, a person was standing there, laughing loudly. It was Merlina.
So, they already told you it was a joke, right?
Merlina? What's going on?
I always knew it was a lie, Seth. Do you know why? Because I do belong to the cult that these kids were trying to imitate.
You killed them?
Yes, silly. I take my religion very seriously. And since these kids dared to make fun of us, I gave them a birthday party they would never forget.
Suddenly, Merlina started walking towards me, and it was like all hell went loose. With every step, I felt the floor shaking. Things started to float, and the people in the portraits came to life and looked at me.
What's wrong, Seth? You don't want us to be part of the group anymore?
As if someone lifted me, my body levitated, and something threw me with enormous violence toward the exit door, which my body broke after having flown through 2 rooms. In pain, I looked from the outside to the door waiting for Merlina to approach, but she wasn't coming. Where was she?
See you tomorrow at work, Seth. Don't even think about quitting.
After that, I went back to work like it was nothing. As soon as I got to work, Merlina started talking to me as if nothing had happened, although I noticed that sometimes she looked at me with a mischievous smile, as if mocking my fear. That same day, the boss told us that all the employees had been found dead, so they were going to hire new people. As we went back to work, Merlina came up to me with a smile and said,
Hey, aren't you happy? We're no longer the new employees.
"Whoever is reading this, please send help. All my friends are dead. Unless something happens, I will join them soon." It all started when school closed for the summer. We had just graduated from high school, so the guys and I decided to celebrate by going on a fun summer vacation. Miguel suggested a resort in South America. "Dudes, there's a resort in my village. It's got booze, sandy beaches, babes, you name it. Trust me, you're gonna love it." Miguel was my best friend. We'd known each other since junior high, plus the resort was at the island he grew up in, so I figured I could take his word for it. The following week, I, Miguel, his girlfriend Anna, and 2 other classmates boarded a private plane for the trip. Everything was going great, but out of the blue, a freak thunderstorm started. The turbulence was so terrible that we screamed and cried. Things grew worse when we lost one of the engines. Yet, miraculously, we managed to crash land on an airstrip close to the resort. "Is everyone all right?" "Just a few bumps and bruises, but I'll live. I might need a fresh pair of pants, though." Anna was hurt. She had dislocated her shoulder. We applied first aid to it, hoping to get her to a doctor once we reached town. Even more concerning was that the plane was totaled during the accident. It would need several days to be fixed, and until then, we had no choice but to stay on the island. I didn't know it then, but things were about to get much worse. We took a bus from the airfield to Miguel's village where the resort was. On our way to the resort, I noticed creepy scarecrows hung on poles in different sections leading up to town, each one of them eerily similar to actual human bodies. Even more terrifying, some of them had some sort of black liquid oozing from their sides. Miguel explained what they were. "The village folks put it up. They believe it wards off evil spirits. They're all made of straw and held together with tree sap. It's nothing to worry about." My friends, Matt and Damien, took pictures with their cell phones. I was so freaked out, I couldn't even look at them. Finally, after what seemed like forever, we arrived at the resort. The staff showed us to our rooms. I couldn't help noticing that we were the only tourists at the resort. As a matter of fact, the place looked deserted. I tried asking one of the staff members about it, but he gave me a cold, piercing stare and just walked away. What the hell's going on? Where is everyone? I just spoke with the manager that runs the place. It turns out there's a festival in the village this weekend, so most businesses are closed. Even the beaches are closed.
I want to go home.
Miguel managed to calm Anna down, but everyone was a little bummed by the turn of events. Suddenly, we heard some strange music coming from the streets below. The festival that Miguel mentioned had begun. Hoping the festivities would cheer us up a bit, we quickly took to the streets. The sight we saw immediately made us wish we hadn't. A dead body, freshly embalmed and robed in chiefly attire, was on full display for all to see. A group of young men carried his casket on their shoulders, and a procession of village people followed them. Some cheered and danced, others wailed hysterically and cut themselves with knives and machetes. Each member of the parade had a skull face painting. All over the streets were the rotten, festering bodies of dead relatives. Each one had been dressed up in everyday attire and propped on chairs as though they were alive. The sight was so shocking I almost lost my breakfast.
What is all this?
It's a burial procession for the village chief. He passed away a few days ago. Just when I thought things couldn't get any creepier, they immediately did. The procession stopped abruptly and everyone turned towards us. They began chanting violently in a strange language as they approached us.
Miguel? What's going on? I'm not sure, but we need to get back inside now.
I and the others quickly ran back into the resort, only to find no one there. All the staff, including the manager, was gone. I ran up to my room and found something so terrifying it gave me goosebumps. Someone had hacked a chicken to death in all of our rooms and had sprinkled the blood everywhere. Miguel's girlfriend had a panic attack. The rest of us had had enough.
That's it! We're leaving! I don't care if we have to wait at the airstrip for a few days. I'm not staying here another minute!
I screamed to Miguel, blood pounding in my ears. I went to get my bags, but they were nowhere to be found. Before I could gripe about that, all hell broke loose. Chanting noises grew louder and louder. We looked out the balcony and saw that the villagers were now in the resort. They were yelling and screaming. Each one was brandishing machetes, knives, and pitchforks.
I don't know what's happening, but I will deal with this. All of you hide.
Miguel yelled out to us as the villagers entered the reception. We hid behind a desk close by so we could watch what was happening. Miguel's voice was quiet and muffled. I couldn't hear what he said, but suddenly, one of the men walked up to him and plunged a butcher's knife right into his shirt. His body flopped around helplessly as the rest of the mob dragged him away.
No!
Anna yelled in shock and drew their attention to us.
Run! Everyone run!
I screamed, and we all made a run for it. I dragged Anna by the hand as we ran. Matt slipped and fell. I could only glance in horror as I saw them pin him to the ground with a pitchfork. Damien ran off in the opposite direction and they went after him. Anna and I made our way to the beach next to the resort. Luckily, a small fishing boat was floating at the dock. I got onto the boat and dragged Anna with me.
No! We can't go! What about the others?
We have to get help. If we stay here, we're dead.
I hotwired the boat and we set sail just as the rest of the villagers arrived on the beach. We sailed as fast as we could until the mob was out of sight. I heaved a sigh of relief, glad that we had escaped. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain on the back of my head. Then, I lost consciousness. When I finally came around, I found myself at a shrine tied to a wooden stake, like a lamb to the slaughter. I looked around me and saw that my friends were dead. All of them, except for Miguel and Anna. The two stood with the villagers, chanting and howling like demons from hell.
Miguel? What's going on? What happened?
I'm sorry, it's not personal. My people need a sacrifice of foreigners to honor our dead chief and ward off evil spirits. It's my job to provide them with the sacrifices they need. That's why I had to trick you all and bring you here. Anna was in on it the whole time. Her job is to make sure that you don't leave the island.
How could you do this to me? I thought we were best friends!
We are best friends! That's why you're still alive. I've pleaded with them not to harm you as long as possible, but I can't say what will happen when I leave. With those last words, Miguel left. I couldn't believe what was happening. I watched in horror as they stuffed my dead friends into bags and turned them into scarecrows, knowing that unless something happens, I will be next. There's a game you shouldn't ever play on Snapchat. My friends and I always use the app to keep in touch and for laughs. We've used it for several years now, but after what happened with that game, I don't think I'll ever use that app again, and I want to put out a warning. Never play the game. It happened 2 weeks ago during the school break. I was messaging my friends as usual through Snapchat, and this eventually led to the suggestion that we should play some group games. We had done this before, but we usually stuck to simple games like Truth or Dare. It started that way this night too. We were all in a group chat, and we were playing some Truth or Dare. The game went on for quite a while until, as usual, it got a bit too intense for my liking. It was about time to hit the hay, so I sent a message in the group chat. "Alright, I'm headed out. Good night, guys." And with that, I put down my phone and tried to sleep. As I lay there, tossing and turning, I couldn't help but think about the game we were playing. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't sleep. The phone kept going off until finally it went silent. Opening my phone, I was bombarded with all the messages from the group chat. I read through it to see that my other friend, Nathan, had disconnected as well, and our 2 final friends had gone to their DMs to play some new game. "Dude, have you seen this new game on Snapchat? It's called 3 in a Row. Who wants to play?" "I'll play." Those were the last messages of the group chat, so I sighed and began to type. "How's the game going?" I waited for a few minutes, but there wasn't any reply. I figured they were too engrossed in the game to reply, so I decided to go back to sleep. The next day, I woke up to a voicemail from Nathan. I quickly played it as I got out of bed. "Hey, have you seen Snapchat? Tyler and Ryan haven't been answering all morning. They're both offline. Do you know what's up? We were supposed to meet up this morning, but I can't find them anywhere." I quickly got dressed and grabbed my phone, running out the door. Nathan lived just a few blocks away, so I figured I could swing by his place on the way to school. As soon as I arrived at Nathan's house, I could tell something was wrong. Nathan greeted me at the door with a worried look on his face. "What's wrong?" "It's Snapchat. I can't find Tyler or Ryan anywhere, and their phones are both turned off. I've been trying to call and text them all morning, but there's no answer. And they were supposed to meet me at my house a few hours ago, but they never showed up." I tried to call and text Tyler and Ryan myself, but there was still no answer. We noticed, however, that Ryan's Snapchat location wasn't showing up at his house. Instead, his location was last seen near the canal, a usual hangout for us. Why, they're probably hanging out without us. And with that, we headed to the canal. When we arrived, however, we found no sign of Tyler or Ryan. We did, however, find their phones. Both of the phones were lying under the bridge. As we approached the phones, I noticed that both of the screens were on. On Tyler's phone was a Snapchat notification. When I opened it, I saw that he had recently added a new friend. The username was 3. What the heck is this? I opened the app to see that 3 had sent a snap to Tyler, but it had expired and I couldn't view it. I tried to view it again, but the snap had disappeared. Send him a message. Maybe they know where Tyler and Ryan are. I typed out a quick message and hit send. A few seconds later, I received a reply. It was a snap and I clicked open. The snap was of a dark room, and I could barely make out 2 figures in the corner. Although I could barely make them out, they looked like Tyler and Ryan. The caption of the photo was simple: "Play the game." Before I could reply, the snap expired, and 3's username disappeared. I tried to search for the user, but they had vanished. And then suddenly I heard my phone ding. Pulling it out, I saw a notification for a new Snapchat game that had been added, 3 in a Row. And as bad of a decision as it was thinking back, I clicked it. Suddenly, the world around me went black. I couldn't see anything, but I heard Nathan's panicked voice next to me.
What the heck is going on? Where are we?
I don't know, dude. As soon as I said those words, I heard a door slam shut behind us. I turned around to see a dark figure standing in front of us. Whatever the figure was, though, it wasn't human. It had long, skinny legs twice the length of its body, a long neck, and 2 glowing red eyes. The only thing remotely human about it was its arms, which ended in sharp claws. Although I couldn't see its face, I could see the glint of sharp white teeth, and I knew that this thing was not something I wanted to meet in a dark alley. And then it spoke.
The game will last till the hangman's done. Lose and die, win for fun.
And with those words, the figure vanished into thin air. I heard Nathan whimpering next to me, but I too was paralyzed with fear to move. Suddenly, I saw a board appear in front of us. It was a simple board of tic-tac-toe, and the voice of the creature echoed through the air.
There can only be one winner. Now play.
I realized what it wanted. It wanted us to play against each other. I looked over at Nathan and could see the fear in his eyes, but I didn't see any other way out of this, so I made my move. I drew an X on the board, and then it was Nathan's turn. It went on for quite a while, each of us moving. We could hear movement around us, and every once in a while we saw the red eyes flash, but every time we ended in a tie, we had to play again, and nothing happened. Finally, however, Nathan slipped up and I won. As I did, I saw the red eyes appear above Nathan's head.
You lose, hangman.
And with a gruesome crunch, the creature tore one of Nathan's legs from his body. I watched him scream and writhe in pain on the ground, and as much as I wanted to say that I felt pity, I only felt relief. And then it was time for the next game. The creature picked him off the ground, putting him on the chair, and the tic-tac-toe board appeared again. He lost faster now. He could barely focus on the board and slipped up again. And the creature took his other leg. On and on it went, until finally the world flickered, the lights going completely dark. And just like that, I was back in the canal. This time, however, Nathan was nowhere to be seen. I'm writing this anonymously so that nobody knows who I am. I don't want to be associated with what happened that night. But just know that you should never play 3 in a row. Hey guys, my name is Luis. If there's one thing that I'm proud of, it's being Mexican. In my country, we take our traditions very seriously, and the Day of the Dead is one of the most important. For this Day of the Dead, we decided to go to an amusement park. The park was themed on the Day of the Dead, and all the employees were dressed up as skulls or ghosts. The only one of my friends who seemed uncomfortable was Pedro, who kept repeating that this was very disrespectful and that the dead could take revenge. Anyway, we decided to ignore him and we all went to the bumper cars. At first, we were having fun, but the cars started to increase their speed. The game went on, but suddenly my belt mysteriously broke. When I tried to fix it, I swear an empty car accelerated towards me and hit me with all its might. Not having my seatbelt buckled, I was thrown out of the car and got hurt. The employees of the place stopped the game and 2 men with medical badges ran toward me, but I got up and told them that everything was fine. I just opened my knee a little bit. My friends got out of their cars and came running to see me. Pedro looked terrified. Guys, this is not a coincidence. It's the dead. We shouldn't be here. This is not honoring them. This is making fun of them.
Oh, come on, Pedro, you're exaggerating. You watch too much TV.
While my friend was talking, none of them noticed that one of the cars had its lights on. The car accelerated violently, and before I could warn him, it ran over Hector. The car accelerated so violently that his body broke apart and flew off in pieces. I wanted to get up and run away, but the doctor not only had not reacted to Hector's death, but he violently pressed his finger on the wound of my knee.
Ow! Ow! You're hurting me!
The doctor didn't seem to be doing this to me on purpose. It was like he was hypnotized. My friends tried to push him away, but he seemed to be obsessed with squeezing my wound. Pedro kicked him with all of his might, and the doctor finally fell. As we approached him, we noticed that he wasn't moving. We walked carefully to where he was, and when we saw him, we were baffled. His gaze seemed lost. Meanwhile, his fingers kept moving as if they were still squeezing my wound. To our surprise, no one seemed to care about what we were experiencing. Everyone in the park was running around in despair. The rides were out of control. Everyone was running over people or falling. All the park employees who were in costumes or skull masks were chasing people. They all seemed hypnotized, staring blankly, like the doctor who was hurting me seconds before. I told you, it's the dead. This day is to honor them. These people are making fun of them.
Guys, maybe I'm crazy, but I think he's right.
Are you saying there are ghosts in this place?
How do you explain this then? Is it all a coincidence? Is everyone going crazy and the games are failing by chance?
Whatever it is, we have to get out of here or we'll end up like Hector. It's true. Come on, the exit's this way. Melina and I followed Pedro. The way to the exit seemed quite clear, but something surprised us. A mechanical bull near the exit started to spark, and after a few seconds, it generated a big fire that spread to the entrance of the park. People piled up at the exit, and more obstacles were on fire. We started to avoid them and to overcome the people. The exit was very close, but in front of our eyes, Pedro fell. We tried to pick him up, but people were running faster and faster, and it was impossible to bend down to pick him up. We could make some space to lift him, but it was too late. Pedro was dead. In those seconds that he fell, people had run over him, crushing him to death. Melina tried to carry him, but stopped her. He was no longer breathing. Melina was only carrying a corpse on her shoulders. Melina, we have to go now. This'll burn.
No! Louis, I can't leave him!
You must. He's already dead.
You don't understand. I can't leave him. I love him. Run. You go. Save yourself. I'll stay.
I wanted to force Melina to come with me, but she had already made her decision. I ran as fast as I could, and when I turned around, I saw how 3 amusement park employees cornered Melina and started stabbing her. My friend fell to the ground. Still not satisfied, they kept stabbing her again and again. I could only keep running. I was almost at the exit. I had made it. I was escaping. As I went through the exit door, I looked up, and the only thing I remember was seeing a huge burning sign fall on top of my head. Ah! And that's how I woke up. It was all a dream. It was so real. The crash with the bumper car was worse than I thought, as I had hit my head and passed out. The doctors were able to take me to the hospital, but I got up and promised to leave. Hey guys, we can't leave yet.
Are you crazy? Louis almost died.
But he's okay now. Come on, let's go on the roller coaster at least once. No, don't you guys understand that Luis's accident wasn't a coincidence? This place is evil. Dead people don't like it here. Hey guys, I'm fine. I can go on the roller coaster.
Are you sure, Louis?
Oh, come on. What could happen? I wanted to tell them about the dream, but I decided not to. I'll do it another day. Now, I just want to enjoy the roller coaster and go to rest. I woke up, my hands and legs tied to a chair. I looked around and saw a mirror, through which I saw a skeletal figure standing behind me. What the hell are you?
Don't worry, Jimmy. We'll finish with you soon. Let's head downstairs.
I saw the skeletal girl and the other man, both horrific in the dimly lit room, walk out and head downstairs. As I watched them leave, my memories came flooding back to me. Wow, great party, Jimmy. Congrats on turning 18. Yeah, man, the cake is amazing. Thanks, guys. Glad you could make it. I stood there at the party talking to my friends, when suddenly I noticed a girl standing in the corner, watching me. She walked over and began to flirt with me.
Hey there. You seem like a fun guy.
Yeah, I guess so. What's up?
I just think it'd be a lot more fun if we went somewhere more private.
The girl grabbed my hand and we began to walk upstairs, heading toward the bedroom. Keep in mind, this was a rental house, so I didn't really know the layout. I had wanted to get drunk on my birthday and my parents wouldn't have approved of me drinking with my friends. So, what are we gonna do?
Wait, do you hear that? It sounds like someone's in the attic.
The girl suggested that we investigate, so I reluctantly agreed and we headed up to the attic. We spent quite a while going door to door, trying to find the attic. We went into several different rooms, but each of these rooms turned out to be a bedroom. Even though I mentioned several times that we could just give up, she was insistent that we keep looking for the attic. I found it slightly weird, but at the time didn't think anything about it. Where do you think the doorway to the attic is?
I don't know, Jimmy, but this is totally fun.
Yeah, I guess, but wouldn't it be more fun if we just went back to the...
Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Don't you want to find out what's making all the noise?
I guess. Suddenly, as I was turning a corner, I saw another doorway that we hadn't seen before. As we saw it, both of us grew excited, as we realized this had to be the attic. I stepped forward and opened the door, and saw a long spiral flight of stairs. Gulping, I looked up into the darkness. So, are we sure we want to head up there?
Absolutely. Come on, Jimmy. I promise nothing bad will happen.
Well, alright, but you owe me after this.
We can head back to the bedroom after.
We walked up the stairs, closing the door behind us. As we climbed higher and higher, I suddenly heard a sound coming from above. It sounded like someone was shuffling around. I tried to stay quiet and motioned to the girl to do the same, but unfortunately, she tripped on a loose step and made a loud sound. The sound stopped. As we rounded the final corner and entered the attic, I saw something that made my skin crawl. A man stood there, his strange and disfigured face staring right at us. He held a knife in his hand. The girl screamed and grabbed me.
Let's get the hell out of here!
Not so fast.
What? With that, the girl pulled me down to the ground, laughing as she did. As she stared at me, I realized why she was laughing. Her skin had fallen off her face, revealing nothing but bones underneath.
Ah! What the hell?
Not so excited now, are you, Jimmy? But don't worry. I'll still take care of you.
And then, I saw nothing. As the two figures left, I struggled with the ropes and eventually managed to break free. I quickly ran out of the attic and hid in an upstairs closet, my hands trembling. I could hear the two people, if you could call them that, downstairs. I could hear them screaming and laughing maniacally as my friends screamed, the noises of their terror ringing in my ears. I had to find a way out of there. I fumbled in the darkness, eventually finding my phone.
Hello? Yes, I need help. Please, there are two psychos at my party trying to kill me. Send help.
The police arrived in minutes, but when they finally found me hiding in the closet, the two psychos who had attacked the party were gone. Later that night, I was driving home when I noticed a car following me closely. Straining my vision, I stared back at the car carefully when my heart leapt into my throat. I saw the man's face, the same man I had seen in the attic. He was following me.
Oh my god.
I sped up, trying to lose him. After what felt like ages, I looked in my rearview mirror and saw that the car was no longer there. I let out a sigh of relief as I pulled into my driveway, my heart pounding. I quickly got out of my car and ran inside, making sure that the security system was still enabled. It was late, so both my parents were already asleep. I was sure they'd worry about me in the morning, but for now, I was safe. As I glanced out the window one last time, however, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The girl from the party, her face still skeletal, was standing outside my house, her eyes fixated on me. Even though she disappeared into the darkness seconds later, I know what I saw. I know she's still out there, watching me, and eventually, she'll come for me again. My name is Thomas, and I don't want to scare you, but I think I'm about to die. It all started with Richard's house, my childhood friend. Recently, his uncle died in a car accident, so all his belongings were trapped in a warehouse and they didn't want to give them to his aunt. So he asked me for a huge favor, to help him get into the warehouse to rescue a gold watch and give it to his aunt. I was touched by Richard's noble wish, but his uncle always made me suspicious. Whenever I went to his house, I saw a lot of satanic insignia or cult stuff, but he was my best friend and I couldn't say no to him. When we arrived at night, we carefully slipped into the warehouse, but the security guard saw us quickly and started chasing us. The guard was pretty old, so he couldn't keep up with us, and as soon as we lost him, we ducked out of sight. Very carefully, we made it to Richard's uncle's warehouse. I asked Richard if he had brought the key, but instead, he pulled out a lockpick and unlocked the padlock.
Hey, you told me your aunt had a key. Why did you use a lockpick?
You see,
Come on, Richard. There's no such thing as a gold watch for your aunt. It's all an excuse to rob your dead uncle, isn't it? What if it is? He's dead. He won't wear any of this.
Richard entered the place without paying attention to me and started to put everything he saw into a huge bag. Among everything he stole, something caught my attention. It was 2 round gold jewels. Underneath them, there was a note that said, "Keep quiet." As soon as Richard stole them, the power went out. We decided to leave the place immediately, but suddenly, we heard a scream. Ah! That was the voice of the guard. We were not alone. After a few seconds, the screams became muffled, and before we knew it, they disappeared. We ran to the exit door, and when we tried to open it, it was locked. Darn. For sure, the guard had them, and the worst thing was that everything was too dark for Richard to use his lockpick again to escape. While we were thinking about how to escape, a corpse came flying towards us. It was the guard. His throat was torn with a lot of force. This was not the work of someone from this world. From the direction of where the corpse was thrown, something approached us. It was a humanoid of more than 2 meters. With each step it took, we could feel it twist more than the previous one. It knew we were here, and it wanted to hurt us.
Look, Richard, he has no eyes. The note said, "Keep quiet." How do we get out of here? Shh, keep quiet. We must return those jewels.
We both started walking slowly toward Richard's uncle's warehouse. We passed by the monster without making a sound, and as I suspected, he could not hear us.
Hey, Thomas, I'm sorry, but I'll escape with the jewels. What?
Suddenly, Richard pushed me in the direction of the monster and started screaming. The monster walked nervously in my direction as Richard ran away. I froze, holding my breath as the monster got closer and closer, trying to find me. He knew I was there, but he didn't know where. I took a few steps back, and without realizing it, I skidded, and even though I didn't fall, I made some noise. The monster walked in my direction, furious, but suddenly it stopped, turned around, and ran away. We both heard Richard reopening his uncle's warehouse. I stood up and ran quickly to the warehouse. He had betrayed me, but I still wanted to help him. By the time I got there, though, it was too late. The monster was in front of Richard, who was threatening him with a knife. Locked in the warehouse, Richard ran with his knife and stabbed the monster, but the monster didn't flinch. In response, the monster put a hand on Richard's head and pinned him against the wall. My friend began to scream, while with the other hand, the monster reached across his throat and ripped out his trachea. Richard screamed no more. Immediately, he dropped dead. As I watched my friend fall to the ground, the monster saw the 2 gold stones on the ground, grabbed them and put them in his hands. The stones got out of control and began to move on their own. At that moment, I realized that these were not just jewels, they were the eyes of the monster. The strange being began to look all over the room. My eyes had already adapted to the darkness, so I could see perfectly how its horrible golden eyes moved all around, until it fixated on its next victim, me. The monster started walking slowly, but when I ran towards the exit door, its speed increased rapidly. As I ran away, I found the guard's corpse and grabbed his keys. When I reached the exit door, I quickly tried all of the keys I could, but none would fit. And that's the end of my story. At this moment, the monster's very close. I only have 2 keys left. For sure, one of them is the right one. If I put in the wrong key, I have no doubt that I will die. I took a deep breath and put in one of the 2 keys, and with all my strength, I forced it open, praying that I had chosen the right key.
Stop splashing me, Charles. Come on.
It's just a bit of water, baby. You'll be okay. We laugh as we swam, the shore distant as we explored the depths of the ocean. Suddenly, however, I looked at my girlfriend and saw a strange look on her face.
Charles, stop tugging at my leg.
Not, baby. What's wrong? With a scream, she suddenly disappeared beneath the waves. I lunged for her, but she was gone in an instant, and I screamed for help. Help! Someone help me! I need help! From the corner of my eye, I saw a dark shadow swimming around me, and I began to panic. The ocean was dark, and my girlfriend was nowhere to be found. The dark shadow in the water, whatever it was, began to swim closer and closer. Then, suddenly, I felt something grab my arm and pull me to the surface. A boater had seen me struggling in the water and pulled me onto their vessel. Hey man, are you okay? What's happening? My girlfriend, she's gone. We were just swimming and then she was gone. We'll find her. Just stay put. But they didn't find her. They even called the Coast Guards, but she was nowhere to be found. Eventually, the boaters and Coast Guards were looking at me like I was crazy, and the only thing I could do was leave. I wasn't about to give up though, and I directly went to the police. I'd like to report a missing person. Her name is Nancy. We were on summer vacation and we were swimming in the ocean when suddenly she just disappeared. The police took my story, but what I saw when I left the station had me in shock. I saw her standing across the street, a look of bewilderment on her face.
What's going on, Charles? Why were you at the police station? I've been looking all over for you.
What? What happened? I was in shock and kept asking her questions, but she couldn't remember anything. She said she had a terrible headache and was feeling very disoriented. We hurried back to the hotel. I hoped to get some answers. When we got back to our room, however, she seemed tired, and so we decided to go to sleep for the night. I awoke to the sound of running water. I looked around and gasped as I saw that our room was filling up with water. I could hear the faucet running from the bathroom, and so I ran to turn it off, my heart pumping. As I ran back to wake up my girlfriend and get her out of there, however, I saw something that gave me chills. Nancy? What's going on? What are you? She was transforming, her entire body turning into a creature with scales and fins. Her eyes were now a deep black, and her mouth looked like that of a fish. Her skin was a grayish green and blue color, and her hair was long and black. And her claws, her nails had transformed into long, black claws. And then she lunged at me. Dodging to the side, I bolted for the door and ran into the hallway. I kept running until I was far away from the door of my hotel room, then stopped and looked back through the window. Nancy was sitting on the bed as if nothing had happened. I rubbed my eyes, confused, and backed away thinking I was hallucinating due to shock.
Charles, where are you going? Come back.
Finally, I opened the door to the room again.
Charles, why did you run away like that? What's the matter? Did you have a nightmare?
I guess I did. Rubbing my eyes, I figured that I had just been dreaming. There wasn't any water and there wasn't any sign of what I had seen. Anyone would assume that they were dreaming if they saw something like that.
Maybe we should go for a swim again. It'll help you clear your head.
Yeah, I guess we can. Maybe I just need to wake up fully. And so we headed down to the ocean again and got into the water. As we swam, nothing out of the ordinary seemed to happen, so I gradually got more and more relaxed. As we drifted slowly further away from shore, however, I felt something brush up against my leg, and then I felt it again. Looking down at the water, I saw dark shapes surrounding me, and I glanced up at Nancy with concern.
Nancy, something's going on.
But I didn't finish my sentence as I saw her face. It was completely transformed again, and she had a sinister smile on her face. Before I could move away, she grabbed my arm and pulled me under the water. I struggled, fighting with all my might, but I could feel myself being pulled down. I kept struggling, but her hand was holding my wrist with an iron grip.
Let go! Let go! What the hell?
But she didn't, and she dragged me deeper until my vision began to fade away. I saw her face, wild and monstrous, and then I let go and sank into the depths of the ocean. I could see shadows swimming around us, closing in, and I knew that I'd probably never see the surface again. The shadows around me became clearer, and I realized that they were other creatures just like Nancy. I guess next time, I'll be helping her lure another innocent swimmer into her trap. It was my first day of school. After a terrible car accident, I was rejoining the life of a teenager. My drunk mom's reckless driving made me lose one of my legs. The teacher introduced me to the class, and I could tell people weren't welcoming. The students whispered about my appearance in the middle of the term, but I kept the accident a secret. If they knew I had a fake leg, they will make even more fun of me. During lunchtime, I was heading to my table carrying my food when I slipped and fell onto a popular girl named Emily.
Oh no!
I spilt the pasta on her shiny new dress and everyone started laughing.
I'm sorry. I didn't. This dress is worth more than your entire family, weirdo. Hey, don't need to be rude, okay? Or what? What are you gonna do, huh?
She pushed me, and I couldn't keep my balance this time. As I fell, my skirt went up to my knee, and everyone saw my prosthetic leg.
Whoa, what is that? Are you even human, weirdo?
People started taking my video. I was humiliated and traumatized. I wanted to smack that stupid girl, but my emotions got the best of me. I got up and ran away. I ran until my lungs gave up. When I stopped, I found myself standing in the woods. The school's backside led to the dense forest, and I was lost in it. Not knowing where to go, I spotted this hiking trail. A humming sound was coming from the end of the trail. It was scary, yet so alluring at the same time. I started following the trail. I had no idea where I was going, but I just couldn't stop myself from doing so. After 5 minutes of walking, I reached in front of this small mud hut. Smoke was coming from its windows. The humming had stopped by then. A rotten smell was making the air heavy. Being curious, I entered the hut. A gypsy woman was sitting near a fire pit with her eyes closed. The woman's partial face had burn wounds. On the fire pit was a small pot that had something black boiling in it. Suddenly, the woman opened her eyes and smiled at me.
So, you want them to be nice to you?
I don't know how she could tell, but I nodded my head. She grinned, flashing her remaining teeth, and told me to sit closer to the fire. I followed her instructions like a faithful puppy. She took out a box and opened it. My skin crawled when I got to see what was inside. It was the leg of a dead bird. The color had turned black over time.
What would I do with this? You can solve your problems. It would grant you 3 wishes, but only with hellish consequences as punishment for tampering with fate. You can't change what has happened. Your wishes need to revolve around the present, but you must decide if you want this or not.
I looked at the box and could feel my heart beating faster. What more do I have to lose? I took the box from her hand. Just then, a bolt of lightning struck.
A storm is coming. You should go home before you get lost in the dark.
I came out of her hut. After putting the box in my backpack, I turned back for one last glance. To my shock, the hut was gone. The lady was nowhere. It was just an empty, barren land in the middle of the woods. I couldn't sleep the entire night. All I could think was, what should I ask for my first wish? Then, suddenly, a cruel plan came to mind. I opened the box and made my first wish.
I want Emily to get humiliated at school.
The next day, we were all sitting in our art class when Emily started behaving crazily. She picked up a scissor and began cutting her hair while laughing like a psycho. Other students got scared seeing her behave that day. Our art teacher tried to stop her, but she didn't let go of the scissor. I was sitting right next to her and watching her embarrass herself. My heart enjoyed the cruel deed I just pulled off, when suddenly, the scissors slipped from her hand and landed on my big toe. I got up screaming in pain. Emily was escorted out of the classroom and I got immediate medical attention. The power of the dead bird's leg made me a little scared. To get my revenge, I ended up hurting myself as well. But then, it was only a cut, so it didn't take me much more time to make my second wish. After Emily was out of the scene, it was decided no way she's going to be at the prom. I wanted to take this chance. I wished for Emily's boyfriend Jack to ask me to the prom. I wanted to ruin her and hurt her as much as possible. And my wish came true. While leaving for home, Jack came to me. He told me since Emily won't be going to want a date for the prom, and he wants to take me, I obviously said yes. I appeared at the prom in a bluish-pink gown with Jack, but before we could walk into the dance floor, I went to the washroom. I was ready for my third and final wish. I asked the dead bird's leg to make the prom night memorable for me, and that's all eyes stay on me tonight. We danced and enjoyed ourselves. It was looking up for me, which is why I forgot about the malevolent consequence of the wishes. At the end of the prom, Jack and I got crowned as the prom king and queen. My wish came true as I climbed up to the stage. I was all set to make my prom speech when suddenly something horrible happened. A bucket filled with foul-smelling pig blood landed on me from above. I was drenched in thick, gooey liquid. I looked at the audience and all of their eyes were on me, just how I wished it to be. Suddenly, Catherine entered from backstage. She went psycho for stealing her boyfriend right before prom. It was she who tied the bucket above my head and was waiting for the right opportunity. That's when my head snapped. I jumped on Catherine with my prom queen trophy and began hitting her on the head with it. People were trying to separate us, but I didn't stop. Instead, Catherine's heart stopped beating. My life got ruined, and now I'm waiting on death row. Every night, I wake up screaming to these nightmares where I see a dead bird's leg sitting on my face and scorching my skin with its sharp nails. It was a cold night, but I wanted to work out. Little did I know I would barely escape that gym with my life. As I worked out, the power suddenly went out. I tapped on my phone screen looking at the notifications. A blizzard warning showed brightly at me, and I sighed. Damn, I really thought I'd be able to beat the snow. I better head back. I grabbed my gym bag and walked toward the door, but stopped in my tracks as I stared out at the snow. It was whirling and nothing was visible except for the drifts which had begun to pile up against the window. Sighing, I turned back to the workout machines. I guess you guys will keep me company until the blizzard's over, huh? I was about to sit back down and begin working out when I heard a faint noise at the window. It sounded like a tapping, and I thought it might have been some ice or snow hitting the window, but it seemed too regular, and so I glanced up, but the snowy darkness outside was too thick to make out what it was. I took a few steps closer until my face was almost pressed up against the glass. And that was when I saw it. Its face stared directly into mine, and I could feel the terror creeping up my spine. It was some kind of creature. It had a dark face, and all I could make out were the glowing white eyes beneath the long, drooping hair. Antlers sprouted out in every direction, and I flung myself backward in shock.
What the hell are you?
But the creature didn't move, nor did it respond. It simply stared at me. As I backed up, however, I stumbled and fell over some weights on the ground. My head hit something hard and I blacked out. When I came to, I stared wildly around, looking at the window where the creature had been, but it wasn't there. The snow still whirled outside, but it was empty. I thought I had imagined the whole thing, but then I heard the tapping noise again. This time it seemed to be coming from inside the gym. My heart raced and my fears crept back in as I slowly walked toward the sound.
Hello? Is anyone else in here?
There was no response, but the tapping continued. I felt a cold trickle of sweat run down my spine, and I walked slowly closer to the noise. It seemed to be coming from inside the bathroom, so I steeled my courage and turned my phone flashlight on. Walking around the bathroom, I didn't see anything at first. Suddenly, however, the light from my phone landed on something beneath one of the closed stalls. 2 goat's feet. My breath caught in my throat, and I quickly backed up. The tapping at the stall continued, and that's when I made a run for it. But no sooner had I turned around when I felt a cold, bony hand on my throat and felt myself being turned around.
Get away from me! What do you want?
It turned me around and I could see the creature standing there, its eyes still shining with an eerie white light. Panicking, I began to kick wildly as it held my throat until I finally managed to pull myself away and run. I dropped my flashlight, but I didn't care. I ran through the darkness till I saw the familiar shape of the bench press and then threw myself behind it. I could hear a tapping noise here and there, and I clamped my hand over my mouth. Suddenly, however, there was a silence, and then I heard the door of the gym creak open.
Hello? Anyone in here? I saw a car parked outside. Hello?
Hello? Hey, please, you gotta help me. There's someone or something in here with me.
I sprang out from behind the bench press, running toward the officer.
Whoa. Come on, man. Let's get you home. I'll call this in, but the weather is basically everything shut down. Hop into my car and I'll get you home.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And so I hopped into the officer's car and he began to drive. As we drove, the officer began to talk to me.
So, what did you see back there that had you so freaked out?
I don't know, man. It was some sort of guy, I think. But it was so weird. I'm not even sure it was human.
Sounds like you might have had too much to drink, huh?
I wish, man, but this was all too real.
We drove in silence for a few minutes, until the officer finally spoke again.
Well, whatever it was, I'm sure you're safe now. Just try to get some rest on the ride home and you'll be back to normal before you know it. Sound good?
Yeah. Thanks. Again. And so I stared out the window, my eyes on the snow which fell all around the vehicle. It was so dark outside, however, that I couldn't help but see a bit of a reflection from inside of the car. It was then that I saw him. There was no officer sitting there next to me, but the creature. Its white eyes stared straight ahead, not even blinking. I screamed and threw the door open, jumping out into the snow.
Get the hell away from me!
I ran through the dark blizzard till I saw lights on the road. Waving my arms wildly, I begged for the car to stop. It seemed so far away, and I was freezing cold. My legs were going numb, so I was overjoyed as the car began to slow down. I just hope that this time, it's not that creature again.